The knife pressed against her throat gleamed under the fluorescent lights of Grand Central Station. "Nobody move," the attacker screamed, his grip tightening on Rachel Anderson's designer coat. Michael Torres had exactly 3 seconds to decide. Walk away with his daughter Sophia or risk everything for a stranger. He chose to become a hero, never knowing the woman he'd save was his CEO's daughter, and that this single act would transform 3 lonely lives forever. Stay with me until the end of this incredible story, and comment your city below so I can see how far our story has traveled. The December cold bit through Michael Torres's worn jacket as he hurried through Grand Central Station, his 8-year-old daughter Sophia's small hand warm in his. Christmas Eve in New York City meant crowds, chaos, and the constant press of humanity rushing to reach their destinations. Michael had worked a double shift cleaning the offices at Anderson Global, his body aching with exhaustion, but Sophia's excitement about their modest Christmas plans kept him moving forward. "Daddy, look at all the lights!" Sophia pointed at the massive wreaths and twinkling decorations adorning the station's vaulted ceilings. Her brown eyes, so much like her late mother's, sparkled with wonder. Michael managed a tired smile. "Beautiful, mija, but we need to hurry. The last train leaves in 15 minutes. They were weaving through the crowd when it happened. A woman's scream cut through the holiday chatter like a blade through silk. The bustling station seemed to freeze, hundreds of people turning toward the sound. Near the information booth, a young woman in an expensive camel coat was being held by a disheveled man, a knife glinting at her throat. "Everyone back off!" the attacker shouted, his eyes wild with desperation or drugs, maybe both. "I'll do it. I swear I'll do it." The woman, she couldn't have been older than 25, stood rigid with terror, her perfectly styled blonde hair now disheveled, her designer purse fallen to the grimy station floor. Blood had already begun to seep from a small cut on her neck where the blade pressed too hard. Security guards were nowhere in sight. The crowd had formed a wide circle, phones out, recording, but no one moved to help. Michael felt Sophia's grip tighten on his hand. "Daddy, that lady needs help," Sophia whispered, her voice small but certain. Michael's heart hammered in his chest. Every instinct told him to pull Sophia away, to disappear into the crowd like everyone else. He was a single father. Sophia was all he had left in the world, and he was all she had. Getting involved was insane, reckless, potentially fatal. But then he looked down at his daughter's face, remembering the words he'd spoken to her so many times. "We don't walk away when someone needs help, mija. That's what makes us good people." The attacker was dragging the woman backward now, toward the exit. "I need money. Someone give me money or she dies." Michael's mind raced. He'd grown up rough in the Bronx, had learned to handle himself on streets where showing weakness meant becoming a victim. But that was 20 years ago, before Maria, before Sophia, before he'd traded that life for mop buckets and floor wax. "Sir, please," the woman managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady despite her fear. "Take my purse. Take everything. Just please don't—" "Shut up." The man jerked her roughly, and she cried out. That sound, that helpless, terrified sound, made Michael's decision for him. "Sophia, baby, I need you to go stand with that nice lady over there," he said quietly, nodding toward an elderly woman watching from the crowd. "Remember what I taught you? If something happens, you call 911 and tell them exactly where we are." "Daddy, no." "I'll be right back, mija. I promise." He gently pushed Sophia toward the elderly woman, who instinctively put a protective arm around the child. Then Michael turned and began walking slowly toward the attacker. "Hey, man," Michael called out, his voice calm and measured. "It's Christmas Eve. You don't want to do this." The attacker's head snapped toward him. "Stay back! I'm warning you." Michael raised his hands, showing his empty palms. "I'm not armed. I'm not a cop. I'm just a guy trying to get home with his kid. But you're scared, I can see that. And when we're scared, we make mistakes." "Shut up. You don't know anything about me." "I know you don't really want to hurt her," Michael continued, taking another step closer. He could see the woman's eyes now, bright blue, wide with terror, but also something else. Hope, maybe. "I know whatever brought you here, whatever's going wrong in your life, this isn't going to fix it." "I said stay back." The knife pressed harder against the woman's throat, drawing another bead of blood. Michael was close enough now to smell the attacker's desperation, sweat, alcohol, and the acrid scent of someone who'd been sleeping rough. He'd smelled it on himself once, years ago, before Maria had saved him with her love and Sophia had given him purpose. "Look at me, brother," Michael said softly. "Really look at me. I'm nobody special, just a janitor trying to make it to tomorrow. But I know what rock bottom looks like, and I know this isn't the way up." For a moment, the attacker's grip loosened slightly. His eyes met Michael's, and in them was a world of pain and desperation that Michael recognized all too well. "They took everything," the man whispered. "My job, my apartment, my family. I got nothing left." "You've got a choice," Michael said, taking another small step. "Right now, you've got a choice. Let her go, and tomorrow's still possible. Hurt her, and there's no coming back from that." The station seemed to hold its breath. Hundreds of people watched, frozen in place as the drama unfolded. Somewhere in the crowd, Sophia was probably watching too, despite Michael's instructions to look away. The attacker's hand began to shake. "I can't go to prison. I can't." "You hurt her, you will. You let her go, maybe we can work something out. It's Christmas, man. Miracles happen. It was the wrong thing to say." The man's face contorted with rage. "Miracles? You think miracles happen to people like me?" He shoved the woman forward and lunged at Michael with the knife. Time seemed to slow. Michael's old instincts kicked in, muscle memory from a youth spent dodging violence. He sidestepped the initial thrust, grabbed the attacker's wrist with both hands. They struggled, spinning in a deadly dance. The crowd scattered, screams echoing through the station. The woman had fallen to her knees, gasping, her hand at her throat. She was safe, but Michael wasn't. The attacker was stronger than he looked, fueled by desperation and rage. The knife twisted, seeking flesh. Michael felt the blade slice through his jacket, through his shirt, into the meat of his shoulder. White-hot pain exploded through him, but he didn't let go. Couldn't let go. If he did, the man might go after the woman again, or worse, might find Sophia in the crowd. With a grunt of effort, Michael drove his knee into the attacker's stomach, using the man's momentary loss of balance to slam his knife hand against the marble floor. Once, twice, 3 times until the blade clattered away across the polished stone. The attacker collapsed, sobbing now, all fight gone from him. Michael fell back, his hand going to his shoulder, feeling the warm wetness of blood seeping through his fingers. "Daddy!" Sophia's voice cut through the chaos, and suddenly she was there, throwing her arms around him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm okay, baby," he whispered, though the pain was making him dizzy. "I'm okay." Police officers finally appeared, rushing in to secure the attacker. Paramedics followed, immediately attending to both Michael and the woman. As they worked on his shoulder, Michael watched the woman being checked over. She seemed relatively unharmed, just the shallow cut on her neck and the trauma of the experience. Their eyes met across the chaos, and she mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." Michael nodded, then focused on Sophia, who hadn't let go of his good arm. "You were brave, mija. You were braver, Daddy. You saved her. We don't walk away when someone needs help, remember?" "I remember, but you got hurt." "Sometimes doing the right thing hurts," he said, wincing as the paramedic applied pressure to his wound, "but that doesn't mean we stop doing it." The police took statements. The attacker was led away in handcuffs, still sobbing. The crowd began to disperse, the Christmas Eve energy of the station slowly returning to normal, as if nothing had happened. New York City had a way of absorbing trauma and moving forward, barely missing a beat. The paramedics wanted to take Michael to the hospital, but he refused. The wound was deep, but not dangerous. It would need stitches, but the emergency room on Christmas Eve would mean hours of waiting and a bill he couldn't afford. "I'll go to the clinic tomorrow," he told them, accepting the thick bandaging they applied. "I just want to get my daughter home." The woman appeared as they were preparing to leave, flanked by 2 police officers. Up close, Michael could see she was beautiful in that refined, expensive way that spoke of private schools and trust funds. Her coat, despite the ordeal, still looked like it cost more than Michael made in a month. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said, her voice cultured, with just a hint of a tremor. "What you did, most people wouldn't have." "Most people have more sense," Michael replied, attempting a smile that turned into a grimace as his shoulder protested. "More sense, maybe. Less courage, definitely. She pulled out her phone. Please, let me at least pay for your medical bills. It's the least I can do. That's not necessary, miss. I didn't do it for money. I know that. That's why I want to help. She paused, studying him. What's your name? Michael Torres. This is my daughter, Sophia. I'm Rachel, she said, then seemed to catch herself. Rachel Anderson. The name meant nothing to Michael at the time. Anderson was common enough in New York. He had no way of knowing that this Rachel Anderson was the only daughter of Robert Anderson, CEO of Anderson Global, the very company where Michael pushed mops and emptied trash cans 5 nights a week. Well, Miss Anderson, I'm glad you're okay. Merry Christmas. Wait, she called as they turned to leave. At least let me have your contact information, in case I can ever repay you. Michael hesitated, then rattled off his cell number, which she entered into her phone. You don't owe me anything, miss. Just be careful out there. As they walked away, Sophia looked up at him. She seemed nice, Daddy. She seemed scared, mija. Anyone would be. Do you think we'll see her again? Michael laughed, then immediately regretted it as pain shot through his shoulder. I don't think people like her, and people like us run in the same circles, baby. Come on, let's go home. We've got presents to wrap. They made their train with minutes to spare, settling into seats as the city lights blurred past the windows. Sophia curled against his good side, already half asleep from the excitement and trauma of the evening. Michael held her close, trying not to think about how close he'd come to leaving her an orphan. Their apartment in Queens was small but clean, a far cry from the rat-infested places Michael had lived before Maria had civilized him. The Christmas tree, a sad little thing from the discount lot, stood in the corner, decorated with handmade ornaments Sophia had crafted at school. 3 presents sat beneath it, wrapped in newspaper because Michael couldn't afford real wrapping paper. He tucked Sophia into bed, sitting with her until her breathing deepened into sleep. Then he went to the bathroom and carefully removed his shirt, examining the wound in the mirror. It was ugly but clean, maybe 4 inches long across the meat of his shoulder. It would scar, adding to his collection. As he cleaned it with the meager supplies in their medicine cabinet, he thought about the woman, Rachel, the terror in her eyes, the relief when he'd stepped forward. He thought about the attacker too, that broken man who'd seen no way forward but violence. There but for the grace of God, Michael thought. Or the grace of Maria, who'd pulled him from his own spiral before it was too late. He took 2 ibuprofen and settled onto the couch, their bed converted back to Sophia's during her winter break. The shoulder throbbed, keeping him awake. He stared at the water stain on the ceiling, the one shaped like a rabbit that Sophia had named Mr. Hoppy, and wondered if he'd been foolish. What if he'd been killed? What would have happened to Sophia? Foster care, most likely. The system. The thought made him sick. He had no family left. His parents were gone. His brother had died in Iraq. And Maria's family had wanted nothing to do with them after she'd married outside their culture. Sophia had no one but him. And yet, what kind of father would he be if he'd walked away? What lesson would that have taught his daughter? That helping people was only worth it when it was safe? That courage was a luxury they couldn't afford? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you said I don't owe you anything, but I can't sleep. I keep thinking about what could have happened if you hadn't been there. Thank you doesn't seem like enough. Rachel, Michael stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. You're welcome. Get some rest. Tomorrow's Christmas. Do you have plans? I'd like to send something for your daughter at least. She must have been terrified. We have everything we need. Merry Christmas, Miss Anderson. Merry Christmas, Mr. Torres. He set the phone aside and closed his eyes, not knowing that across the city, in a penthouse apartment overlooking Central Park, Rachel Anderson was staring at her phone, intrigued by the man who'd risked everything for a stranger and wanted nothing in return. The next morning, Christmas Day, Michael woke to Sophia's excited voice. Daddy! Daddy! Santa came. He sat up, groaning as his shoulder protested. Sophia was already at the tree, examining the presents with the serious concentration of a child trying to guess contents without opening them. Can I open them? Please? Coffee first, mija. Let your old man wake up. She bounced impatiently while he made instant coffee. They couldn't afford a real coffee maker, and settled on the couch. The morning light filtered through their single window, catching the tinsel on the tree and making it sparkle. Okay, go ahead. Sophia tore into the first present, a used book set he'd found at Goodwill, The Complete Chronicles of Narnia. Her eyes widened. All of them? All the books? All 7, baby. I know you've been wanting to read them. She hugged the books to her chest like treasure, then carefully set them aside and reached for the second present. It was an art supply kit, also secondhand but in good condition, with colored pencils, markers, and a new sketch pad. For all those beautiful drawings you make, Michael said, watching her face light up. The third present was the one he was most proud of, a locket he'd found at a pawn shop, silver and delicate with space for 2 photos. He'd already placed pictures inside, one of Maria, radiant and smiling, and one of the 3 of them together at Coney Island, taken just months before the cancer diagnosis. Sophia opened it with trembling fingers, saw the photos, and burst into tears. Oh, Mija, I didn't mean to make you sad. I'm not sad, Daddy. I'm happy. Now I can keep you both with me always. She threw her arms around his neck, and he held her tight, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. These moments, he thought, these were worth any risk. They spent the morning reading together, Sophia already deep into The Lion, The Witch, and The Wardrobe, occasionally reading passages aloud in her clear, sweet voice. Michael dozed on and off, the pain medication making him drowsy. Around noon, his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Torres? This is Rachel Anderson. I hope I'm not interrupting your Christmas. Not at all, Miss Anderson. How are you feeling? Sore, scared, grateful. Listen, I know you said you don't want anything, but I can't stand the thought of the man who saved my life spending Christmas Day injured because of me. I've arranged for a private physician to come to your home, if you'll allow it. No hospitals, no bills, just someone to properly treat that wound. Michael's first instinct was to refuse, but the shoulder was really hurting now, and he knew it needed proper treatment. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford, not with Sophia depending on him. That's very kind of you. It's the least I can do. Can you text me your address? An hour later, Dr. Patricia Kwan arrived at their door, a kind-faced woman who didn't blink at their modest apartment. She cleaned and stitched Michael's wound with efficient professionalism, left antibiotics and proper pain medication, and strict instructions for care. You're lucky, she told him. Another inch to the left and we'd be having a very different conversation. That was a brave thing you did. Or stupid. The two aren't mutually exclusive, she said with a smile. Take care of yourself, Mr. Torres. Your daughter needs you. After she left, Sophia curled up beside him on the couch. The doctor lady was nice. Yes, she was. Was she from the lady you saved? She sent her, yes. Sophia was quiet for a moment, then said, Maybe she's our Christmas angel. Mama always said angels come when we need them most. Michael kissed the top of her head. Maybe so, baby. Maybe so. They spent the rest of Christmas Day quietly, eating the simple meal Michael had prepared the night before, rice and beans with the small chicken he'd been saving. Sophia drew pictures with her new art supplies, creating an elaborate thank you card for Miss Rachel the Christmas Lady, as she'd decided to call her. That evening, as Sophia was getting ready for bed, she asked, Daddy, are you going to work tomorrow? Michael's heart sank. He'd forgotten about work. Anderson Global's offices were closed for the holiday, but the cleaning crew was scheduled to come in for deep cleaning. His shoulder throbbed at the thought of pushing mops and lifting trash bags. I have to, Mija. Bills don't pay themselves. But you're hurt. I've worked hurt before. Don't worry about me. But as he tucked her in, he wondered how he was going to manage. The deep cleaning was intensive, stripping and waxing floors, cleaning windows, moving furniture. His supervisor, Gary, wasn't known for his sympathy. Missing work meant missing pay, and they were already behind on rent. The next morning came too soon. Michael's shoulder had stiffened overnight, and getting dressed was agony. He dropped Sophia at Mrs. Chen's apartment, the elderly neighbor who watched her when school was out, and made his way to Manhattan. Anderson Global occupied a gleaming 40-story tower in Midtown, all glass and steel and aggressive modernism. Michael had been cleaning these offices for 3 years, invisible to the suits who worked there during the day, just another part of the building's machinery. He badged in through the service entrance, already sweating from the pain of the subway commute. Gary was waiting in the supply room, clipboard in hand, scowl firmly in place. "Torres, you look like hell." "I'm fine, Gary." "You don't look fine. You look like you're about to fall over." "I said I'm fine." Gary studied him for a moment, then shrugged. "Your funeral. You're on floors 30 through 35 today. Executive level, so don't screw up." The executive floors. Of course. The floors that required the most detailed work, where a single streak on a window or spot on the carpet would be noticed and complained about. Michael grabbed his supply cart and headed for the service elevator. The 30th floor was mercifully quiet, the cubicles empty, the conference rooms dark. Michael worked slowly, methodically, trying to favor his injured shoulder. But by the time he reached the 32nd floor, he was lightheaded from pain. He was attempting to maneuver the heavy floor buffer when he heard voices in the hallway. Strange. No one should be here except the cleaning crew. "I don't care that it's the day after Christmas, Johnson. I want those reports on my desk by 9 a.m. tomorrow." The voice was sharp, authoritative, used to being obeyed. A man rounded the corner, tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Michael made in 6 months. Robert Anderson himself, CEO and founder of Anderson Global. With him was a younger man Michael recognized as Johnson from accounting, looking miserable at being called in on a holiday, and Michael's heart stopped. Rachel Anderson, in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, her neck bandaged discreetly with a silk scarf. Their eyes met across the hallway, and her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, recognition, and then something like alarm. "I'll call you back, Johnson," Robert Anderson was saying into his phone. Then he noticed Michael, and his expression shifted to irritation. "You missed a spot on that window yesterday. See that it's properly cleaned?" Michael nodded, unable to speak. Rachel was staring at him, her mouth slightly open. "Yes, sir," he managed. Robert Anderson had already dismissed him, turning back to Johnson, but Rachel hadn't moved. "Daddy," she said suddenly, "this is—" "Not now, Rachel. We have work to do." "But Daddy, this is the man." "What man?" Robert Anderson turned back, his laser focus now on Michael, who wished the floor would open and swallow him whole. Rachel stepped forward. "This is Michael Torres. He's the one who saved me at Grand Central." The transformation in Robert Anderson's face was instant. The irritation vanished, replaced by something Michael couldn't quite read. The CEO stepped forward, extending his hand. "You're the hero from the station." Michael shook his hand awkwardly with his good arm. "I'm no hero, sir. Just did what anyone would do." "That's precisely what makes you a hero. You did what everyone else didn't." Robert's eyes narrowed, taking in Michael's uniform, the Anderson Global logo on his shirt. "You work for me?" "Yes, sir. 3 years now. Maintenance department." "And you're working today?" "After what happened." "Bills don't pay themselves, sir." Robert Anderson studied him for a long moment. Michael could see where Rachel got her eyes, the same piercing blue, the same intensity. "Johnson, we're done here. Go home to your family." The accountant scurried away, clearly relieved. "Mr. Torres, drop that buffer and come with me." "Sir, I need to finish." "Now, Mr. Torres." It wasn't a request. Michael followed them to the executive elevator, acutely aware of his work uniform, the chemical smell that clung to him, the sweat staining his collar. Rachel kept glancing at him, her expression unreadable. The elevator rose to the 40th floor, the penthouse level Michael had never seen. Robert Anderson's office was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Manhattan. The furniture was all leather and dark wood, the walls decorated with abstract art that probably cost more than Michael would make in a lifetime. "Sit," Robert commanded, gesturing to a chair that looked too expensive to touch, let alone sit in with work clothes. Michael sat carefully, trying not to wince as his shoulder protested. "Rachel told me what happened," Robert began, settling behind his massive desk. "She also told me you refused any reward." "I didn't do it for a reward, sir." "I'm aware. That's what makes this complicated. Robert leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. I'm a man who pays his debts, Mr. Torres. You saved my daughter's life. That's not something I can simply overlook. With all due respect, sir, you don't owe me anything. I did what was right. You did what was extraordinary, Rachel interjected. Daddy, he was stabbed. He has a daughter, and he still risked— A daughter? Robert's eyebrows rose. You're married. Widowed, sir. My daughter is 8. And you risked leaving her an orphan to save a stranger. I couldn't walk away, sir. I couldn't teach my daughter to be good people if I walked away. Robert Anderson was quiet for a long moment, studying Michael with those penetrating eyes. What do you make here, Mr. Torres? Annually? Michael flushed. I do all right, sir. Gary, Robert barked into his phone. Get me the employment file for Michael Torres, maintenance department. Now. They waited in uncomfortable silence. Rachel moved to the window, her reflection showing worry and something else. Guilt, maybe? Michael sat rigid, wondering if he was about to be fired for some unknown infraction. Gary appeared minutes later with a manila folder, shooting Michael a confused look before retreating. Robert opened it, scanning the contents. $32,000 a year. No infractions. No sick days taken in 3 years. He looked up. You never take sick days. Can't afford to, sir. And you're working injured now because you can't afford not to. Michael didn't answer. What was there to say? Robert closed the file. This is unacceptable. Michael's heart sank. This was it. He was being fired. Sir, if I've done something wrong— You've done everything right, Mr. Torres. That's the problem. Robert stood, pacing to the window. I built this company on the principle that excellence should be rewarded. You've shown excellence of character, and you're mopping my floors for barely above minimum wage. It's honest work, sir. It is. But it's not enough. Not for the man who saved my daughter. He turned back. I'm promoting you. Facilities manager, starting immediately. $60,000 to start, full benefits, and a signing bonus to cover any medical expenses from your injury. Michael's head spun. Sir, I don't have the education. You have something better: character, integrity, courage. The rest can be learned. Daddy, Rachel said softly, you're overwhelming him. Robert's expression softened slightly as he looked at his daughter. Perhaps. Mr. Torres, take the rest of the week off, paid. Let that shoulder heal. Report to HR on Monday to complete the paperwork. Michael stood on shaky legs. Mr. Anderson, this is too much. It's not enough, but it's a start. Go home to your daughter, Mr. Torres. Michael nodded, unable to form words. As he turned to leave, Rachel followed him to the elevator. I'm sorry, she said once they were alone. I didn't know you worked here. If I had, I would have handled this differently. It's okay, miss. Your father is generous. He's guilty. I'm his only family, and he almost lost me. He doesn't know how to process that except through grand gestures. The elevator descended in silence. As they reached the maintenance level, Rachel touched his good arm. The thing is, Mr. Torres, you didn't just save my life. You reminded me that there are still good people in the world, people who do the right thing without expecting anything in return. That's rare. Not as rare as you might think, miss. Most people just never get the chance to prove it. She smiled then, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. Maybe you're right. Take care of that shoulder. And thank your daughter for me, for letting her daddy be a hero. As Michael gathered his things from his locker, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. Sophia's thank you card had somehow been delivered to Rachel, who'd sent a picture of herself holding it, smiling at the camera. Tell Sophia her card is beautiful. I'd love to meet her properly someday. Michael stared at the photo for a long moment. Rachel Anderson, heiress to a fortune, wanted to meet his Sophia. The world had shifted on its axis in the span of an hour, and he wasn't sure how to process it. He made his way home in a daze, stopping at the corner store to buy Sophia's favorite ice cream, a luxury they rarely afforded. Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow when he picked up Sophia early. You look different, Michael. Something happened? I got a promotion, Mrs. Chen. A big one. The The elderly woman smiled. Good. About time someone noticed you're worth more than they're paying. Back in their apartment, Michael sat Sophia down and tried to explain what had happened. But how did you tell an 8-year-old that their life had just changed because Daddy had been brave? So the Christmas lady's daddy is your boss? Sophia asked, working through the logic with careful concentration. Yes, mija. And he's giving you a better job because you saved her? Something like that. Sophia was quiet for a moment, then said, That's good. But you would have saved her anyway, right? Even if her daddy wasn't rich? Of course, baby. Good. Because we don't walk away when someone needs help. That's right. Can I meet her? The Christmas lady? She seems nice. Michael looked at the photo on his phone again. Rachel holding Sophia's card, that genuine smile lighting up her face. Maybe, mija. Maybe. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Michael stood at their window looking out at the city lights. 3 days ago, he'd been invisible, just another working poor father trying to make ends meet. Now he had a salary that would change everything. Sophia could have new clothes, could join the art classes she'd been wanting to take, could maybe even go to college someday without drowning in debt. All because he'd chosen not to walk away. His phone buzzed. Rachel again. I know this is presumptuous, but I wanted you to know what you did didn't just save my life. It changed it. I've been going through the motions for years, surrounded by people who only see my last name and my father's money. You saw a person who needed help. Thank you for that reminder of what actually matters. Michael typed back, You're welcome. But miss, you don't need to thank me anymore. We're even. We're not even close to even, Mr. Torres. But I hope we can at least be friends. Friends. Could someone like him be friends with someone like her? In the real world, their paths would never cross except in moments of crisis or service. But maybe the real world had shifted a little, creating space for something unexpected. I'd like that, he typed, then deleted it. Too forward. Take care, Miss Anderson, he wrote instead. Rachel. Please call me Rachel. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Michael. He set the phone aside and prepared the couch for sleep, his shoulders still aching but somehow feeling lighter than he had in years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, learning a job he wasn't qualified for, navigating the corporate world he'd only seen from the outside, figuring out how to exist in Rachel Anderson's orbit without losing himself. But tonight, he'd saved someone. He'd shown Sophia that doing right mattered more than playing it safe. And maybe, just maybe, he'd found an unexpected friend in the process. As he drifted off to sleep, he thought about his wife, Maria, how she would have laughed at the absurdity of it all. My janitor husband, the hero, she would have said, kissing his forehead. I always knew you were more than mops and buckets, mi amor. The city hummed outside their window, millions of lives intersecting and separating, most never touching at all. But sometimes, Michael thought, sometimes lives collided in ways that changed everything. A desperate man with a knife, a woman in the wrong place at the wrong time, a janitor who couldn't walk away. And from that violent intersection, something new was beginning to grow. What it would become, Michael couldn't guess. But for the first time since Maria's death, he was curious about tomorrow. The shoulder would heal, the job would be learned. And somewhere in this vast city, Rachel Anderson was lying awake too, thinking about the janitor who'd become a hero, wondering what came next. The following Monday arrived with a mixture of anticipation and dread that kept Michael awake most of Sunday night. He'd pressed his best shirt 3 times, polished his old dress shoes until they almost looked respectable, and practiced what he would say to HR so many times that Sophia had started reciting it back to him over breakfast. Good morning, I'm Michael Torres here for the facilities manager position, Sophia said in a deep voice, mimicking him while eating her cereal. Mr. Anderson told me to report today. Very funny, mija, Michael said, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. It was Maria's father's tie, one of the few nice things they owned, navy blue with tiny silver dots that caught the light. You look handsome, Daddy, like the men in the tall buildings. I'm going to be one of those men now, baby. Can you believe it? Sophia considered this seriously. Yes, you were always supposed to be important, Daddy. Now everyone else will know too. The commute felt different that morning. Same subway car, same faces, but Michael wasn't heading to the service entrance anymore. He had an appointment with Human Resources on the 25th floor, had been told to ask for Margaret Chen, Director of Personnel Development. The Anderson Global Lobby intimidated him in a way it never had before. When he was just maintenance staff, he belonged in the shadows, invisible and unnoticed. Now he had to walk through the main entrance, past the security desk where Tom had worked for 5 years and knew every janitor by name. Michael? Tom's eyebrows shot up as Michael signed in at the visitor log. What are you doing here? Day shift doesn't start until... I'm not on maintenance anymore, Tom. Got promoted. The security guard's eyes widened. No kidding. Good for you, man. About time someone noticed you bust your ass around here. The elevator ride to the 25th floor felt endless. Michael's shoulders still ached, though the proper medical care had made a world of difference. The stitches would come out in a week, Dr. Kwan had said when she'd called to check on him. The scar would be permanent, but clean. Margaret Chen turned out to be a tiny woman with sharp eyes and an efficient manner that reminded him of a military drill sergeant. She had a stack of paperwork ready, benefit packages to review, and a company laptop that Michael stared at like it might bite him. I should tell you, Margaret said as they worked through the forms, Mr. Anderson called me personally about your situation. That doesn't happen often. Actually, it's never happened in my 15 years here. I'm not sure I'm qualified for this position, Mrs. Chen. Ms. Chen, she corrected automatically. And Mr. Anderson seems to think character matters more than qualifications. Plus, you know this building better than anyone. You've been cleaning it for 3 years. Who better to manage its facilities? She had a point, but Michael still felt like an imposter as she explained his new responsibilities. He would oversee a team of 32 people, manage vendor contracts, coordinate with department heads about their facility needs. The salary made him dizzy, $60,000, more than he and Maria had ever dreamed of having. There's also the matter of your bonus, Ms. Chen said, sliding a check across the desk. Mr. Anderson insisted it be ready today. $10,000. Michael's hands shook as he held the check. It was more money than he'd ever seen at once, enough to catch up on rent, pay off the credit card debt from Maria's funeral, maybe even start a college fund for Sophia. This is too much, he said weakly. Mr. Anderson doesn't do anything by halves, Ms. Chen replied. Your office is on the 3rd floor. Roger will be expecting you. He's been acting facilities manager since the last one quit. He'll show you the ropes. Roger Kowalski was a bear of a man in his 60s, with gray hair and hands that showed decades of physical work. He looked Michael up and down with obvious skepticism. So you're the hero janitor, he said, not unkindly, but not warmly either. Anderson told me to train you up, get you ready to take over. You ever managed people before? No, sir. Ever dealt with vendors? Negotiated contracts? Handled a budget? No, sir. Roger sighed. At least you're honest. Come on, let's start with the basics. The next hours were overwhelming. Roger showed him spreadsheets, work schedules, maintenance logs, vendor agreements. There were emergency protocols, union regulations, safety requirements. Michael's head spun with information, but he took careful notes, determined to prove he deserved this chance. They were reviewing the HVAC maintenance schedule when Roger's phone rang. He answered, grunted a few times, then hung up. That was Anderson's assistant. The big man wants to see you. 40th floor, now. Michael's stomach clenched. Had Anderson changed his mind, realized his mistake in promoting a janitor to management? The elevator ride felt even longer than that morning. When he reached the executive floor, Anderson's assistant, a stern woman named Patricia, waved him straight through. Robert Anderson was on the phone, pacing behind his desk. Rachel sat in one of the leather chairs, and Michael's heart did something complicated at the sight of her. She was wearing a business suit today, navy blue, her hair pulled back in a way that made her look older, more serious. I don't care what the Tokyo office says, Robert barked into the phone. The deal stands as written, or we walk. He hung up and turned to Michael. Mr. Torres, how was your first morning? Educational, sir? Roger is a good teacher. He's also retiring in 6 months, which is why I need you up to speed quickly. Robert sat behind his desk. But that's not why I called you up here. Rachel has something she wants to discuss with you. Rachel stood, and Michael noticed she seemed nervous, fidgeting with her bracelet. I wanted to apologize again for how this all came about. And I have a proposition. A proposition? I'm heading up our corporate social responsibility initiative. We're launching a program for underprivileged youth, STEM education, arts programs, mentorship opportunities. I'd like Sophia to be one of our first participants. Michael stiffened. My daughter doesn't need charity, Miss Anderson. Rachel, she corrected gently. And it's not charity. It's an opportunity. I've seen the thank you card she made. She's clearly artistic. We're partnering with the School of Visual Arts for Saturday workshops. The best students get scholarships for summer programs. I can provide for my daughter. I know you can, Rachel said. But can you provide her with connections to art professors? With access to professional supplies and studio space? With mentors who work in creative fields? She had him there, and they both knew it. Michael's pride warred with his desire to give Sophia every opportunity. Let me think about it, he finally said. Of course. The first workshop is this Saturday. Just consider it? As Michael left the executive floor, he felt the weight of how much his life was changing. It wasn't just the money or the job. It was entering a world he didn't understand, with rules he didn't know. The rest of the week blurred together in a haze of learning. Roger was a demanding teacher, but a fair one, and gradually Michael began to understand the scope of his new role. He was good with the maintenance staff. They were his people, after all. He knew their struggles, their personalities, who was reliable and who needed watching. You've got instincts, Roger admitted by Thursday. You know buildings, you know workers. The rest is just paperwork and politics. The politics worry me more than the paperwork. Roger laughed. Smart man. Word of advice? Anderson brought you in for a reason. Don't try to be someone you're not. Be the guy who stood up when everyone else stood back. Friday afternoon, Michael was reviewing vendor contracts when his desk phone rang. Mr. Torres? This is Patricia, Mr. Anderson's assistant. Miss Anderson would like to know if you've decided about tomorrow's workshop. Michael had been agonizing over it all week. Sophia had seen the brochure he'd brought home and had been excited, but he worried about her entering a world where she might feel less than, where other kids would have advantages she didn't. Tell Miss Anderson we'll be there. That night, as he helped Sophia pick out her clothes for the workshop, she asked, Will the Christmas lady be there? Her name is Rachel, mija, and yes, she's organizing it. Is she pretty? Sophia. What? She looked pretty in the picture. And she sent me that nice note about my card. Rachel had indeed sent a handwritten thank you note on stationery so expensive Michael had been afraid to touch it. Sophia had taped it to the wall above her bed like it was a treasure. Yes, she's pretty. But that's not what matters. I know, Daddy. What matters is that she's nice, and she must be nice if she's doing this program for kids like me. You're going to meet all kinds of kids tomorrow, baby. Some might have more than us. Most people have more than us, Daddy. That's okay. We have enough. But did they? Looking around their small apartment, Michael wondered if enough was really enough when there was so much more available. The bonus check sat in his wallet, uncashed, feeling like a weight. It would change everything, but somehow taking it felt like crossing a line he couldn't uncross. Saturday morning came crisp and bright. Michael dressed carefully, jeans and a button-down, trying to strike a balance between not embarrassing Sophia and not pretending to be something he wasn't. Sophia wore her best dress, the one they'd bought for her school concert, navy blue with small white flowers. The School of Visual Arts building in Chelsea was all glass and modern angles, intimidating in its aggressive artiness. Other families were arriving, some obviously wealthy, others more like them, parents looking slightly uncomfortable but determined to give their children this opportunity. Rachel stood in the lobby, greeting families. She wore jeans and an SVA sweatshirt, her hair loose, looking younger and more approachable than she had in the office. When she saw them, her face lit up. You came! She crouched down to Sophia's level. You must be Sophia. I loved your thank you card, the way you drew the Christmas tree with all those detailed ornaments. You have a real eye for detail. Sophia beamed. I like to draw what I see, but also what I imagine. That's what the best artists do. Come on, let me show you the studio. The studio space was a dream, huge windows flooding the room with light, easels and art supplies that made Sophia's eyes go wide, and walls covered with student artwork that ranged from traditional to wildly abstract. Daddy, look, Sophia whispered, tugging his hand. They have real canvas, and those pencils, they're the professional ones. Other children were arriving, some clearly comfortable in this environment, others looking as wonderstruck as Sophia. Rachel moved among them, making introductions, her manner warm but professional. Parents, you're welcome to stay for the first session, the instructor, a woman with purple hair and paint-stained fingers, announced. After that, we ask that you let the young artists work without distraction. Michael found a spot along the wall with the other parents. He noticed the divide immediately. Some parents were discussing their children's private art tutors, summer homes in the Hamptons, which prep schools had the best art programs. Others, like him, stood quietly, watching their children with a mixture of pride and worry. First time? A woman next to him asked. She was dressed simply but elegantly, with the kind of understated wealth Michael was learning to recognize. Yes, you? Third year. My daughter Emma loves it. Don't worry, they're good here. They don't make distinctions between the scholarship kids and the paying ones. Scholarship kids. Is that what Sophia was? Michael watched as his daughter tentatively picked up a piece of charcoal, testing its weight and texture with careful fingers. The instructor began with basics, how to see shapes and shadows, how to translate 3 dimensions to 2. Sophia absorbed every word, her concentration absolute. When they were given their first exercise, draw something that makes you feel safe, Sophia immediately began sketching. Michael couldn't see what she was drawing from his position, but he could see her face, intent, peaceful, completely in her element. This was right, he realized. Whatever his pride issues, this was right for her. Rachel appeared at his elbow. She's a natural. Look how she holds the charcoal, like she was born to it. Her mother was artistic, Michael said quietly. I always wondered if Sophia inherited it. Tell me about her mother if you don't mind. Michael rarely talked about Maria to anyone except Sophia, but something about the way Rachel asked, genuine interest without pity, made him answer. Maria was a teacher. 3rd grade. She had this way of seeing beauty in everything, even in our rough neighborhood. She'd take Sophia on what she called beauty walks, pointing out interesting shadows, the way light hit broken glass, the patterns in peeling paint. She made our world magical even when it was hard. She sounds wonderful. She was. Cancer took her 3 years ago, pancreatic. By the time they found it, it was too late. I'm sorry. Sophia was only 5. Sometimes I worry she won't remember her. She will, Rachel said with certainty. Love like that leaves marks, good marks. Look, she pointed to where the instructor was examining Sophia's drawing. Even from across the room, Michael could see what his daughter had drawn. Their small apartment, specifically the corner with the Christmas tree, but somehow transformed. She'd captured not just the space, but the feeling of it, the warmth despite the shabby furniture, the love in the carefully placed decorations. Home, Rachel murmured. She drew home as safety. That's because of you, Michael. You've given her that. The way she said his name, soft, familiar, made something shift in his chest. He looked at her, really looked at her, and found her watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. I should check on the other families, she said, but didn't move. Yeah, you should. They stood there for another moment, the air between them charged with something unnamed, before Rachel finally stepped away. The workshop lasted 2 hours. By the end, Sophia had produced 3 drawings and made a friend, a boy named Marcus, whose enthusiasm for manga art matched her own interest in graphic novels. They exchanged phone numbers, promising to share their drawings. As they were leaving, the instructor pulled Michael aside. Your daughter has real talent, Mr. Torres. With proper training, she could go far. I hope you'll continue bringing her. Every Saturday? Every Saturday. The program runs through June, then there's an intensive summer session for the most promising students. Based on what I saw today, Sophia would be a strong candidate. On the subway home, Sophia couldn't stop talking. Did you see the supplies, Daddy? And the light in that room? And Marcus knows how to draw hands. Hands are so hard, but he showed me a trick, and the teacher said my shading was advanced for my age. Michael smiled, watching her joy. So you want to go back? More than anything, can we? I know it's far and you probably have to work. We'll make it work, mija. This is important. Sophia hugged his arm. The Christmas lady, Rachel, she's nice. She remembered specific things about my card, and she asked about my school and what I like to read. She seems very interested in you doing well. She kept looking at you, Daddy. Sophia, she did. When you weren't looking, she was watching you. And when you talked to her, she smiled different, softer. You're imagining things. But was she? Michael thought about that charged moment in the studio, the way Rachel had said his name. It was dangerous thinking. Rachel Anderson was so far out of his league they weren't even playing the same sport. That evening, as Sophia carefully arranged her new sketches on the wall, Michael's phone buzzed. How did it go? Rachel, Sophia loved it. Thank you for this opportunity. It's not charity, remember? She earned her spot with talent. The instructor was impressed. Still, thank you. There was a pause, then another message. Would you and Sophia like to have lunch tomorrow? I'd love to hear more about her experience. Michael stared at the invitation. Lunch with Rachel Anderson. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall would change everything. Let me ask Sophia, he typed, though he already knew what her answer would be. Daddy, look, Sophia called. She'd arranged all her artwork, the pieces from today, her older drawings, and Rachel's thank you note, into a gallery wall above her bed. It's like a real artist's room now. It's beautiful, mija. Hey, Rachel is asking if we want to have lunch with her tomorrow. Sophia's face lit up. Really? Yes. Can we go? Please? Michael typed back. We'd like that. Where and when? There's a place in Greenwich Village that does great weekend brunch. Kid-friendly, but amazing food. 11 a.m.? She sent the address. That night, Michael lay awake thinking about boundaries and dangers. He was Sophia's father first, always. He couldn't let whatever this was with Rachel compromise that. But Sophia needed connections, opportunities, a wider world than their small apartment could offer. If Rachel wanted to be part of providing that, could he really say no just because of his pride? Or because of the way his heart rate increased when she smiled at him? Sunday came with Sophia up early, trying on different outfits. Does this look okay? What about this? I want to look nice, but not like I'm trying too hard. Since when does my 8-year-old worry about trying too hard? Since we're having lunch with someone important, Daddy. She owns buildings. Her father owns buildings. And that doesn't make her more important than anyone else. I know, Sophia said, settling on jeans and her favorite purple sweater. But she's important to us now, isn't she? She's helping us. Out of the mouths of babes, Michael thought. The restaurant was exactly what he'd expected. Exposed brick walls, Edison bulb lighting, the kind of studied casual that cost a fortune. Rachel was already there, in a corner booth, and she stood when she saw them. I'm so glad you came. Sophia, you look lovely. Purple suits you. It's my favorite color, Sophia said, sliding into the booth. What's yours? Blue, usually, but I'm starting to appreciate purple. They ordered, Rachel insisting it was her treat despite Michael's protests. Sophia got chocolate chip pancakes that were more chocolate than pancake. Michael ordered eggs Benedict after Rachel promised it was the best in the city, and Rachel got an omelet that came with vegetables Michael couldn't identify. Tell me about your drawings yesterday, Rachel said to Sophia. The instructor said you showed remarkable emotional intelligence in your work. Sophia launched into a detailed explanation of each piece, her hands moving as she talked, illustrating her points in the air. Rachel listened with complete attention, asking questions that showed she understood art in a way that surprised Michael. You studied art? He asked. Art history, actually. Before my father convinced me to get my MBA. A shadow crossed her face. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed with art. It's never too late, Sophia said seriously. Our teacher yesterday said art doesn't have an age limit. Rachel smiled. You're absolutely right. Maybe I should join your workshop. You should. We could be drawing partners. As they ate, Michael watched Rachel with Sophia, saw the genuine warmth there, the way she treated his daughter like a person worth knowing rather than a charity project. It was dangerously endearing. So, Michael, Rachel said, turning to him, how was your first week as facilities manager? Like drinking from a fire hose. Roger's a good teacher, but there's so much to learn. You'll do fine. Dad doesn't make mistakes about people. Your father barely knows me. He knows you risked your life for me. That tells him everything he needs to know. She paused. It tells me everything, too. That charge again, electric in the air between them. Sophia looked back and forth between them with interest. Are you two going to date? She asked suddenly. Michael choked on his coffee. Sophia! What? She's nice and pretty, and she likes us. You're handsome and brave, and you saved her life. It's like a fairy tale. Rachel's cheeks had turned pink, but she was smiling. Your daughter is very direct. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Honesty is refreshing. She looked at Sophia. Your dad and I are friends. New friends, still figuring things out. But you could be more than friends, right? If you wanted to be. Sophia, enough, Michael said firmly, but Sophia's question hung in the air for the rest of the meal, unspoken but present. As they prepared to leave, Rachel pulled out a business card. My personal cell, she said to Michael. In case you need anything, or if Sophia wants to talk about art. Or if Daddy wants to talk about anything else, Sophia added helpfully. Sophia! Rachel laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. I like your daughter, Michael. She says what she thinks. It's going to get her in trouble someday. Or it's going to take her exactly where she needs to go. As they parted ways outside the restaurant, Rachel hesitated, then said, I have tickets to the Museum of Modern Art next Saturday afternoon, after Sophia's workshop. 3 tickets, actually. I was supposed to go with friends, but they canceled. Would you and Sophia like to join me? Michael looked at Sophia's eager face, then at Rachel's hopeful one. The cliff edge again, the moment before the fall. We'd love to, he heard himself say. Walking home, Sophia slipped her hand into his. I like her, Daddy. I know you do, Mija. Do you like her? Michael thought about lying, but Sophia always knew. Yes, I like her. Good. Mama would want you to like someone again. She told me once when she was sick. She said you had too much love in you to be alone forever. Michael's throat tightened. When did she tell you that? Near the end. When you were at work. She said I had to take care of you, make sure you remembered how to be happy. They walked in silence for a block before Sophia added, I think Rachel makes you remember how to be happy. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Michael sat with his laptop, the company one that still felt foreign, and researched. He looked up Rachel Anderson, found society photos, charity events, a life lived in public view. She was 26, had graduated from Columbia summa cum laude, had been engaged once to a hedge fund manager but had broken it off last year. She was everything he wasn't, educated, cultured, wealthy beyond imagination. What could she possibly want with a widowed janitor and his daughter? His phone buzzed. Rachel. Thank you for today. Sophia is extraordinary. You've done an amazing job raising her. She raises herself mostly. I just try to keep up. Don't sell yourself short. She told me about your beauty walks, how you've continued them after Maria passed. That's love in action, Michael. He stared at the message, wondering how they'd gone from strangers to this in a week. But then trauma had a way of accelerating things. She'd almost died. He'd saved her. Everything after that was uncharted territory. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Michael. See you Saturday. As he closed the laptop and prepared the couch for sleep, Michael thought about trajectories, how a single moment could redirect an entire life. A week ago, he'd been invisible, struggling, alone except for Sophia. Now he had a job that could change their future, a daughter blooming in an art program, and a woman who looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. It was too much, too fast. But maybe that's how the best things happened, all at once, when you weren't ready, forcing you to either embrace the change or retreat to safety. Michael chose to embrace it, even as he worried about the fall. Because Sophia was right, Maria would want him to remember how to be happy. And for the first time in 3 years, he was beginning to remember what that felt like. The city hummed outside their window, indifferent to the small dramas playing out in countless apartments. But in their small corner of Queens, something was shifting. Michael's shoulder still ached, the stitches pulling when he moved wrong, a permanent reminder of the moment everything changed. A week from now, they would stand in the Museum of Modern Art, Sophia between them, all three looking at a painting of a night sky that seemed to pulse with hidden life. Rachel would explain the technique, the history, the artist's pain and triumph. Sophia would sketch in her new notebook, trying to capture not just what she saw, but what she felt. And Michael would watch them both, his daughter and this unexpected woman, and think that maybe taking risks was worth it after all. But that was next week. Tonight, he pulled the thin blanket up to his chin and listened to Sophia's peaceful breathing from behind the partition. Tomorrow, he would return to Anderson Global, would continue learning how to be more than he'd ever imagined possible. Tomorrow, the transformation would continue. The last thought before sleep took him was of Rachel's smile when Sophia had asked if they would date. Not embarrassed, not offended, just interested. As if the idea wasn't completely insane, as if maybe, just maybe, it was exactly right. The Museum of Modern Art was exactly the kind of place Michael had always walked past but never entered, its admission price alone enough to keep families like his on the sidewalk looking in. But here they were, Rachel handing over tickets like it was nothing, Sophia's eyes wide as they entered the soaring white spaces filled with art that challenged and confused and delighted. "This is where Picasso lives?" Sophia asked, her voice hushed with reverence. "His paintings live here," Rachel corrected gently. "Picasso himself died before your daddy was born, but his spirit, his vision, that's very much alive in these rooms." They moved through the galleries slowly, Rachel explaining without lecturing, drawing connections between pieces that Michael would never have seen. She had a way of making art accessible, of bringing it down from its pedestal without diminishing its power. "See how he breaks the face into geometric shapes?" she said, kneeling beside Sophia in front of a cubist portrait. "He's showing us that there's more than one way to see a person, more than one truth about who they are." "Like how Daddy is strong but also gentle," Sophia said. "Or how you're fancy but also normal?" Rachel laughed, that genuine sound Michael was growing addicted to. "Exactly like that. You understand art better than most adults, Sophia." They were standing in front of Van Gogh's Starry Night when it happened. Michael had seen reproductions, of course, but the actual painting was alive in a way no print could capture. The paint rose from the canvas in ridges and whirls, creating texture that seemed to move in the gallery lights. "He painted this from his room in an asylum," Rachel said quietly. "He was in so much pain, but look what he created. Beauty from suffering." Michael felt her hand brush his, not quite holding, but not quite accidental either. "Sometimes the worst moments create the best things," he said, thinking of that night in Grand Central, the knife, the blood, the fear that had brought them all here. "Yes," Rachel said, and her fingers intertwined with his, just for a moment before pulling away. "Sometimes they do." Sophia was sketching, trying to capture the movement of Van Gogh's sky in her notebook, oblivious to the moment passing between the adults. Or maybe not oblivious. Michael caught her sneaking glances at them, a small smile on her face. They had lunch in the museum cafe, overpriced sandwiches that Sophia declared the best she'd ever had because art makes everything taste better. Rachel told stories about her college years, studying abroad in Florence, getting lost in the Uffizi Gallery for entire days. "Did you ever want to be an artist yourself?" Sophia asked. "I did once, but my father had other plans. My daddy says we should follow our dreams." "Your daddy is right." Rachel looked at Michael. "It takes courage to follow dreams. More courage than I had at the time." "It's not too late," Michael said. "You told Sophia that yesterday, remember?" "I did, didn't I?" She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "Maybe someday." As they prepared to leave, Rachel's phone rang. Her father. Michael could hear his commanding voice even from where he stood. "I'm at MoMA." "Yes, with friends." "No, I haven't forgotten about the Tokyo call." "Dad, it's Sunday." "Yes, sir. I'll be there." She hung up, her expression apologetic. I have to go. International crisis that apparently can't wait until tomorrow. It's okay, Michael said, though Sophia's disappointment was obvious. No, it's not. Rachel knelt down to Sophia's level. I promised you the whole afternoon, and I'm breaking that promise. I'm sorry. It's okay, Sophia said, though her voice was small. Important people have important things to do. You're important too, Rachel said firmly. More important than any business deal. How about this? Next Saturday, after your workshop, would you like to come to my apartment? I have art supplies from my college days and a view that's perfect for sketching. Sophia looked at Michael, who nodded. I'd like that, she said. As Rachel hurried off, her driver already waiting at the curb, Sophia slipped her hand into Michael's. She didn't want to leave. No, she didn't. Her dad sounds mean. He's not mean, mija. He's just focused on different things. They took the subway home, Sophia chattering about the art they'd seen, already planning what she would draw next Saturday. But Michael's mind was on Rachel, the sadness in her eyes when she talked about abandoned dreams, the way her father's voice had changed her entire demeanor. That week at work, Michael threw himself into learning everything Roger could teach him. He discovered he had a knack for scheduling, for seeing patterns and the maintenance needs that could prevent problems before they started. The staff was warming to him too, once they realized he wasn't going to forget where he came from. You actually listen, Roger said Wednesday afternoon, approving. The last guy, college boy with an MBA, he thought he knew everything. You know you don't know everything. I don't know much of anything yet. But you're learning. That's what matters. Thursday evening, Michael was staying late, reviewing contracts when the elevator dinged. He looked up to see Rachel stepping out, looking tired and carrying takeout bags. I saw your light on, she said. Figured you might be hungry. You brought me dinner? I brought us dinner, if you have time. I could use the company. She'd brought Thai food, far too much for two people, and they spread it out on his desk, the small office suddenly feeling intimate. Rough day, he asked, watching her massage her temples. Rough week. The Tokyo deal is falling apart, and my father blames me for not being aggressive enough. But if I'm too aggressive, he says I'm not thinking strategically. I can't win. Why do you work for him? The question hung between them. Rachel picked at her pad thai, considering. Because I've never done anything else. Because it's expected. Because I'm good at it, even if it makes me miserable. She looked up at him. Have you ever felt trapped by other people's expectations? Every day for most of my life, until Maria showed me I could be more than what everyone expected. Tell me about her. Really tell me. So he did. He told her about meeting Maria at a community center where she was teaching English to immigrants, how she'd seen past his rough edges to something worth saving, how she'd insisted he get his GED, then pushed him to take night classes, how she'd loved him into becoming a better man. She sounds amazing. She was. But she wasn't perfect. Nobody is. She had a temper, especially about injustice. She once organized a protest at Sophia's daycare because they were charging extra fees that working parents couldn't afford, got herself banned from the premises. Rachel laughed. I would have liked her. She would have liked you too. She always said the measure of a person wasn't what they had, but what they did with it. And what am I doing with what I have? Rachel asked, and it wasn't rhetorical. She really wanted to know. You're giving kids like Sophia opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise. You're sitting in a tiny office eating takeout with a facilities manager instead of being at whatever fancy parties you're supposed to attend. Those parties are terrible anyway, full of people who only see my last name and my father's money. That must be lonely. It is. She met his eyes. Was. It was lonely. The air between them shifted, became charged with possibility. Michael wanted to reach across the desk, take her hand, tell her she never had to be lonely again. But that was crazy. They'd known each other less than 2 weeks. He was her employee, technically. There were 1,000 reasons why this was a bad idea. I should go, Rachel said, but didn't move. Yeah, Michael agreed, not moving either. Sophia's really excited about Saturday. She's been drawing all week, practicing for your apartment. She wants to impress you.
She already impresses me.
You both do. They finally stood, gathering the empty containers, their hands brushing as they both reached for the same box. This time, neither pulled away immediately. "Thank you for dinner," Michael said. "Thank you for the company." She left, but her perfume lingered in the office, something subtle and expensive that made Michael think of museums and possibilities. Saturday arrived gray and rainy, but Sophia's excitement was undampened. She'd packed her art supplies carefully in the backpack Michael had bought with part of his bonus, along with the special sketchbook Rachel had sent her during the week, professional grade paper that Sophia had touched with reverent fingers. The art workshop was becoming routine now, Sophia settling in with growing confidence. Marcus was there again, and the two of them worked side by side, chattering about manga styles and shading techniques. Michael watched from the parent area, noticing how his daughter was blossoming in this environment.
"She's gifted," the instructor told him. "Real natural talent. With the right support, she could go far." After the workshop, Rachel met them in the lobby. She looked different today, jeans and a Columbia sweatshirt, her hair in a ponytail, more like a 26-year-old and less like a corporate executive. "Ready to see my place?" she asked Sophia. "Is it in a tower? Do you have a doorman? Is there an elevator?" "Yes to all three," Rachel laughed. The building was on the Upper East Side, the kind of place Michael had only seen in movies. The doorman knew Rachel by name. The lobby was all marble and modern art, and the elevator opened directly into her apartment. "Whoa," Sophia breathed. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Central Park and the city beyond, modern furniture that looked like art pieces themselves, and actual art on the walls that Michael recognized from their museum visit as the kind of thing normal people saw only behind glass.
"Is that real?" he asked, staring at what looked like a genuine Basquiat. "Birthday present from my father when I turned 21. He thought it was a good investment." Rachel's tone was neutral, but Michael heard the subtext. Her father saw everything as an investment, even gifts to his daughter. "Can I really draw here?" Sophia asked, already gravitating toward the windows. "That's why I invited you." "Come on, I'll show you my old studio space." She led them to a room that was supposedly a second bedroom but had been converted into an art studio. Easels, supplies covered in dust sheets, canvases stacked against the walls, some blank, others showing half-finished paintings that revealed real talent. "You did these?" Michael asked, examining a landscape that captured light in a way that reminded him of the masters they'd seen at MoMA. A lifetime ago, or 5 years ago technically, but it feels like a lifetime. "They're beautiful," Sophia said, studying each piece with serious attention. "Why did you stop?" "I convinced myself I wasn't good enough. Or maybe I let myself be convinced." Rachel pulled dust sheets off the supplies. "But today isn't about my abandoned dreams. It's about nurturing yours." They spent the afternoon creating. Sophia worked on a view of the park from Rachel's window, trying to capture the way the rain made everything look soft and impressionistic. Rachel, after some coaxing from Sophia, picked up a brush for the first time in years. And Michael, claiming no artistic ability, was convinced to try his hand at sketching, producing a lopsided but charming portrait of Sophia that made her laugh with delight. "See," Rachel said, looking at his sketch. "Everyone has art in them. It just takes the right moment to let it out." They ordered pizza. "Even rich people eat pizza," Rachel said when Sophia expressed surprise, and sat on the floor of the living room, rain pattering against the windows, the city lights beginning to twinkle as evening approached. "This is the best day," Sophia declared, cheese stringing from her slice. "We should do this every Saturday." "Sophia," Michael warned, but Rachel smiled. "I'd like that. If your dad doesn't mind me monopolizing your Saturdays." "I don't mind," Michael said, and meant it more than he should. After Sophia had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from art and excitement, Michael and Rachel stood at the window, looking out at the city. "She's remarkable," Rachel said softly. "You've done such a good job with her." "She makes it easy. She's got her mother's heart and stubbornness, and her father's courage. I'm not courageous. Most days I'm terrified I'm screwing everything up." Rachel turned to face him. "That's what makes you courageous. You're scared and you keep going anyway.
They were standing close now, close enough that Michael could see the flecks of green in her blue eyes, could count the freckles across her nose that makeup usually hid. "Rachel," he started, not sure what he was going to say. "I know," she said. "I know all the reasons this is complicated. You work for my father's company. We're from different worlds. We've known each other 2 weeks. 3 weeks now." "3 weeks," she smiled. "But, Michael, I haven't felt like myself in years." "Not until that night at Grand Central when you stepped forward while everyone else stepped back. You reminded me that there are still good people, still heroes, still men who put others before themselves. I'm no hero. You are to me, to Sophia. And maybe that's enough." She kissed him then, soft and tentative, pulling back quickly to gauge his reaction. Michael stood frozen for a moment, his brain trying to process that Rachel Anderson had just kissed him. Then he pulled her close and kissed her properly, deeply, with all the longing and confusion and hope of the past 3 weeks. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Rachel's cheeks were flushed and her eyes bright. "So what do we do now?" Michael asked. "I have no idea," she admitted. "But maybe we can figure it out together?" "I'd like that." Sophia stirred on the couch, mumbling in her sleep, and they both stepped back, the spell broken, but something new established between them. "I should get her home," Michael said. "Of course. Let me call my driver." "We can take the subway." "Michael, it's pouring rain and she's exhausted. Let me do this." The ride home in the town car was quiet, Sophia asleep against Michael's shoulder, Rachel's hand resting on his where Sophia couldn't see. The driver navigated the wet streets expertly, the city sliding by in streams of light. At their building, Rachel helped carry Sophia's art supplies while Michael carried Sophia, still dead to the world. "This is where you live?" Rachel asked, looking around the shabby lobby with curiosity rather than judgment. "This is home," Michael said, a touch defensively. "It feels like home," Rachel said. "Warm. Lived in. Real." They climbed the 3 flights to the apartment, Michael's shoulder protesting under Sophia's weight, but not about to show it. Inside, as he tucked Sophia into bed, Rachel looked around the small space, taking in the careful organization, the art wall above Sophia's bed, the Christmas tree still up because Sophia had insisted they keep it until New Year's. "It's perfect," she said when he came back out. "It's small. It's full of love." "That makes it perfect." She had to go. Her father was expecting her at some charity function. But she lingered at the door. "Michael, about what happened? We don't have to figure it all out tonight." "No, but I need you to know I don't kiss men I've known 3 weeks. I don't kiss men at all, really. Not since my engagement ended." "What happened?" "If you don't mind me asking." "He wanted a trophy wife, someone to look good at parties and produce heirs. When he realized I had opinions and ambitions of my own, he found someone more suitable. 22 years old and happy to be ornamental. His loss. I used to think so. Now I think it was my escape." She reached up, touched his face gently. "You see me, Michael. Not the Anderson name or the money or what I could do for you. You see me." "I see you," he confirmed. After she left, Michael stood in his small apartment, looking at Sophia's art wall, now supplemented with the sketch she'd done at Rachel's apartment. 3 weeks ago, he'd been invisible, struggling, alone except for Sophia. Now everything was changing at a speed that made his head spin. His phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. "Thank you for today. For trusting me with Sophia. For just being you." He typed back, "Thank you for reminding me there's more to life than just surviving. There's so much more, Michael. We just have to be brave enough to reach for it." Brave enough. Michael thought about bravery, about stepping forward when everyone else stepped back, about taking risks that could change everything or destroy it all. He thought about Maria, what she would say about all this. "Go for it, mi amor." He could almost hear her voice. Life's too short for almosts and maybes. Sunday morning came with Sophia bouncing on the couch, waking him with her excitement. "Daddy, can we frame my park drawing, the one I did at Rachel's? I want to give it to her." "That's a nice thought, mija." She looked sad when she talked about not painting anymore. "Maybe my painting will remind her she can start again." The wisdom of children, Michael thought. They went to the frame shop, spending more than they should on a proper frame, but Sophia's joy made it worth it. That afternoon, Robert Anderson called Michael's cell phone. "Mr. Torres, I need you in the office. There's been an incident." Michael's heart sank. Had someone found out about him and Rachel? Was he about to lose everything just as it was beginning? He dropped Sophia at Mrs. Chen's and rushed to the office. Robert Anderson was in the executive conference room with several other suits, including Gary from maintenance and the head of security. "We've had a break-in," Robert said without preamble. "Someone accessed the building last night using an employee key card. Nothing was taken, but they vandalized the 32nd floor." Michael's mind raced. The 32nd floor was where he'd been working that first day, where Robert had first learned who he was. "I need you to assess the damage, coordinate the cleanup, and work with security to figure out how this happened. Can you handle that?" "Yes, sir." The 32nd floor was a mess. Someone had spray-painted the walls with profanity and threats, destroyed computer monitors, scattered papers everywhere. But it was the message on the main wall that made Michael's blood run cold. "Rich bastards owe me everything. Torres is a traitor." "You know who did this?" the security chief asked. Michael did. The handwriting, the particular way the R's were formed, he'd seen it on work schedules for 3 years. "Danny Kowalski," he said quietly. "Roger's nephew. He was fired last month for stealing supplies. He blamed you," Gary said. "Said you reported him to get in good with the bosses." Michael hadn't reported anyone. Danny had been caught on camera, but in his mind, Michael's promotion must have seemed like cause and effect. "We'll handle this," the security chief said. "You just coordinate the cleanup." Michael spent the rest of Sunday at the office, managing the restoration crews, documenting damage for insurance, trying not to think about how Danny knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum disruption. The kid had always been troubled, but this felt personal in a way that made Michael uneasy. He was finally leaving around 9 when he found Rachel in the lobby, still in the cocktail dress from whatever event she'd attended. "I heard what happened. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just tired." "Danny Kowalski, wasn't he always nice to you?" "Desperate people do desperate things," Michael said, thinking of the attacker at Grand Central. "I've been there. When you feel like the world owes you something and keeps taking instead." "But you never—" "I had Maria, then Sophia. They saved me from becoming bitter. Danny never had that." Rachel studied him. "You feel sorry for him." "I feel sorry for anyone who thinks destruction is the answer. It never is." She moved closer. "You're a good man, Michael Torres. I'm just a man trying to be better than he was yesterday." "That's what makes you good." They stood there in the empty lobby, the city lights casting shadows through the glass doors, and Michael thought about trajectories again, how one moment could change everything: the attack at Grand Central, the job offer, the kiss in Rachel's apartment. Now this vandalism, a reminder that not everyone celebrated his good fortune. "Be careful," Rachel said. "Danny's angry, and angry people sometimes—" "I'll be careful. I have too much to lose now." "We both do," she said, and the weight of that acknowledgement that they were becoming a we settled between them. Monday morning, Michael met with the police about Danny. They'd arrested him at his apartment, found evidence of planning that suggested this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. He'd been watching Michael, documenting his new position, his time with Rachel, even Sophia's art program. "He's obsessed," the detective told Michael. "Sees you as everything wrong with his life. We're recommending a restraining order." The thought of Danny watching Sophia made Michael sick with fear and rage. But when he saw Danny at the courthouse, cuffed and hollow-eyed, he mostly felt sad. There but for the grace of God, or Maria, or pure luck. "You sold out," Danny spat at him, "acting like you're better than us now." "I'm not better than anyone," Michael said. "I just got lucky." "Lucky," Danny laughed bitterly. "Must be nice." The restraining order was granted. Danny was charged with breaking and entering, vandalism, and criminal mischief. He'd do time, probably lose any chance at a decent job afterward. Another life destroyed by a moment's terrible decision. That evening, Michael picked up Sophia from art class. He'd started enrolling her in extra sessions with his new salary, and found her working on something intense and abstract, all dark colors and sharp angles. "What's this, mija?" It's how I felt when you got hurt, she said. Scared and angry and proud all at once. The teacher says art can help us process big feelings. Are you processing big feelings now? Sometimes. I miss Mama. I worry about you, but I'm also happy, really happy. Is it okay to be happy and sad at the same time? It's more than okay, baby. It's human. His phone buzzed. Rachel. Dinner tomorrow? All three of us? There's something I want to discuss. Michael's stomach nodded. That sounded ominous. But Tuesday evening, at a small Italian restaurant in Queens that Rachel had insisted on trying, her announcement wasn't what he'd feared. I'm quitting, she said, after they'd ordered. Anderson Global, my father's company. I'm done. Sophia's eyes widened. Michael sat back, stunned. What will you do? He asked. I'm starting a nonprofit. Art education for underserved communities. Real programs, not just Saturday workshops. After-school classes, summer camps, scholarship programs for talented kids who could never afford proper training. Like me? Sophia asked. Exactly like you. You inspired me, Sophia. Both of you did. I've been sleepwalking through my life doing what was expected instead of what matters. I want to do something that matters. Your father will be furious, will probably cut me off. I don't care. I have some money my mother left me, enough to get started, and I'm good at fundraising when I believe in what I'm selling. She was radiant with purpose, more alive than Michael had ever seen her. This was the woman who'd been hiding under corporate polish and family expectations. It's going to be hard, he warned. Everything worth doing is hard. You taught me that. She reached across the table, took his hand in full view of Sophia and the entire restaurant. I know this changes things between us. I won't be connected to your company anymore. My father will probably make things difficult, but I'm hoping— Yes, Michael said. You don't even know what I was going to ask. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, whatever you need, yes. Sophia looked between them, a huge grin spreading across her face. Are you two going to get married? Sophia! Michael exclaimed, but Rachel laughed. Not yet, sweetheart. But maybe someday, if your dad will have me. He will, Sophia said confidently. He looks at you the way he used to look at Mama. Like you're the best thing in the whole world. Michael's face burned, but Rachel squeezed his hand. Your daughter sees everything, doesn't she? Everything, Michael confirmed. It's terrifying. They talked through dinner about Rachel's plans, the logistics of starting a nonprofit, the programs she wanted to create. Sophia contributed ideas with the serious intensity of a consultant, making both adults laugh with her earnest suggestions. We need good snacks, she said firmly. Art makes you hungry, and the lighting has to be good, and we should have visiting artists come talk to us. Real working artists who can tell us how they make money doing what they love. Would you be on my junior advisory board? Rachel asked. Help me make sure the programs actually work for kids? Can I have a title? Chief Youth Consultant? Deal, Sophia said, shaking Rachel's hand formally. Walking home afterward, Rachel had insisted on walking them despite the cold. Michael felt the strange sensation of his life clicking into place, like puzzle pieces finally forming a complete picture. This is crazy, he said. All of this. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks now, Rachel corrected. 4 weeks ago, I didn't know you existed. Now you're rearranging your entire life and somehow we're falling in love? Rachel suggested. Michael stopped walking. They were on their street, Sophia running ahead to pet Mr. Robinson's dog, and Rachel stood there in her expensive coat on the cracked Queens sidewalk, looking at him with those impossible blue eyes. Is that what this is? He asked. I think so. No, I know so. I'm falling in love with you, Michael Torres. With your courage and your kindness and the way you see the world, with how you've raised Sophia and how you make me want to be better than I am. I know it's fast and complicated and probably unwise, but he kissed her, there on the street, with the neighbors probably watching and Sophia definitely watching, kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. I love you too, he said when they broke apart. God help me, I do. Good, Sophia called from the stoop. Can we go inside now? It's freezing. They climbed the stairs together, the three of them, and Michael couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. There would be challenges. Robert Anderson's rage, the class differences that couldn't be ignored, the speed at which everything was happening. But there would also be this: Sophia's laughter, Rachel's hand in his, the promise of something real and true and worth fighting for. 4 weeks since a desperate man with a knife had changed everything. 4 weeks since Michael had stepped forward instead of stepping back. The scar on his shoulder would always remind him of that moment, but now it felt less like a wound and more like a door that had opened to let the light in. That night, after Rachel had gone home and Sophia was asleep, Michael lay awake thinking about the earthquake that was about to hit their lives. Rachel quitting Anderson Global wouldn't just upset her father, it would be seen as a betrayal. And Michael had worked for Robert Anderson long enough to know the man didn't handle betrayal well. The call came at 6 the next morning. "Torres, my office, now." Robert Anderson's voice was arctic. Michael dressed quickly, left a note for Sophia, and made it to Manhattan in record time. The executive floor felt different this morning, charged with the kind of tension that preceded corporate bloodshed. Robert stood at his window, his back to the door when Michael entered. "Sit." Michael sat. "My daughter tells me she's leaving the company. She also tells me she's involved with you." He turned, his face carved from stone. "I'd like to know what game you're playing." "There's no game, sir." "No?" "A janitor saves my daughter's life, gets promoted, and within a month has convinced her to throw away her career and her future. That doesn't sound like a game to you?" "With respect, Mr. Anderson, Rachel made her own decision. She wants to do something meaningful with her life." "Meaningful." Robert spat the word like it tasted bad. "And I suppose you think you're meaningful to her?" "You'd have to ask her that, sir." Robert moved closer, looming over Michael's chair. "I've built an empire, Torres. From nothing. My daughter was supposed to inherit it, run it, expand it. Now she wants to throw it away to finger paint with poor kids, and you're telling me you had nothing to do with that?" "Your daughter has been unhappy for years, sir. Anyone who really looked could see it." "And you looked?" "I see her. Not her last name or her trust fund. Her." Robert's laugh was bitter. "How noble." "Tell me, does seeing her include seeing the $5 million trust fund she gains access to next year? The apartment worth $3 million? The family fortune she stands to inherit?" Michael stood, anger finally overcoming caution. "I've been poor my whole life, Mr. Anderson. I know what it's like to choose between rent and medicine for your kid. But I also know what it's like to love someone for who they are, not what they have. Your daughter is brilliant and kind and brave. She could be broke, and I'd still love her." "Love." Robert laughed again. "You've known her a month. Sometimes a month is enough. Is it? Enough to risk your job? Because make no mistake, Torres, if you continue this relationship with my daughter, your time at Anderson Global is over." Michael had expected this, had been preparing for it since Rachel announced her plans. "Then I'll clean out my desk today." Robert blinked, clearly not expecting immediate capitulation. "You'd give up a $60,000 salary for a woman you barely know?" "I'd give up anything for the chance at real happiness, sir. For me and for Sophia. Your daughter makes us happy." "Happiness doesn't pay bills, Torres." "No, but it makes the bills worth paying." They stared at each other across the vast office, two men from different worlds with only Rachel connecting them. "You're making a mistake," Robert said finally. "She'll tire of you. The novelty will wear off. She'll realize you can't give her the life she's accustomed to." "Maybe. Or maybe she'll realize that life wasn't worth being accustomed to." Michael turned to leave, then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, sir, your daughter loves you. She just can't be you, and the harder you try to force her, the more you'll lose her. Get out!" Michael cleaned out his desk, not that there was much to clean after only a few weeks. Roger watched from the doorway, shaking his head. "Heard you got mixed up with the princess," he said. "Bad move, kid." "Maybe, but it's my move to make." "What are you going to do now?" "Go back to what I know, I guess. There's always someone who needs a janitor." Roger studied him for a moment, then pulled out a business card. "My brother-in-law runs a property management company. They're always looking for good facilities managers. Tell him I sent you." Roger, You're a good kid, Torres. And you were right to choose the girl. Money comes and goes. Love? That's the real deal. By the time Michael made it home, Rachel was already there, sitting on his stoop with Sophia, both of them looking worried. Daddy got fired, Sophia said matter-of-factly. Because he loves Rachel. How did you Mrs. Chen heard you on the phone this morning. She called school to say you might need me. Sophia stood, hands on her hips, in a pose eerily reminiscent of her mother. Are we going to be okay? We're going to be fine, Mija. Rachel stood too, tears in her eyes. Michael, I'm so sorry. I never meant... Stop. This isn't your fault. My father called me, told me what he did, what he said. She touched his face. You gave up your job for me. I gave up a job for us. There's a difference. They went inside, the three of them crowding into the small apartment that suddenly felt even smaller with the weight of uncertainty. Michael made coffee while Rachel and Sophia sat at the tiny kitchen table, working on math homework as if this was all perfectly normal. I can support us, Rachel said quietly, until you find something else. No. Michael, don't be proud. It's not pride. Or maybe it is. But I need to be able to take care of my family. That includes you now, if you'll let me. We take care of each other, Sophia interjected without looking up from her homework. That's what families do. Rachel's phone rang constantly over the next hour. Her father, various board members, colleagues, shocked by her resignation. She ignored them all. I submitted the nonprofit paperwork this morning, she said, before my father could try to stop me. The Anderson Foundation for Arts Education, although I might change the name. Why? Michael asked. Because I don't want to trade on his name. I want this to be something I build myself. The Taurus Foundation sounds nice, Sophia suggested innocently. Rachel and Michael exchanged glances. That's thinking a bit ahead, Mija, Michael said. Not that far, Sophia replied, still focused on her math. Rachel loves you. You love her. She makes us happy. We make her happy. The rest is just paperwork. The wisdom of 8-year-olds. That evening, after Sophia was in bed, Michael and Rachel sat on the fire escape, looking out at the city lights. The January air was bitter cold, but neither wanted to go inside. Your father will come around, Michael said, though he didn't believe it. No, he won't. He doesn't forgive what he sees as betrayal. I'm dead to him now. Rachel. It's okay. It hurts, but it's okay. I've been dying by degrees in that life anyway. Now I get to live. With an unemployed single father in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. With a hero who sees me for who I am. Who makes me want to be better. Who has a daughter who might be the most amazing kid I've ever met. She leaned against him. I love you, Michael. I know it's only been a month. 4 weeks and 3 days. She smiled. 4 weeks and 3 days. But I know what I feel. And I know what I want. What do you want? This. U.S. A life that means something. To wake up excited about the day instead of dreading it. To help kids like Sophia discover what they're capable of. To love and be loved without conditions or transactions. Your father thinks you'll get tired of slumming it with us. My father doesn't know me at all. He never has. Michael's phone rang. Roger's brother-in-law, already calling about the facilities manager position. They talked briefly, scheduled an interview for the next day. The salary would be less than Anderson Global, but more than Michael had made as a janitor. It would be enough. See, Rachel said, things work out. You're awfully optimistic for someone who just lost everything. I didn't lose everything. I lost things that were never really mine anyway. The trust fund, the inheritance, the position at the company, they all came with strings, with requirements that I be someone I'm not. Now I get to find out who I really am. They stayed on the fire escape until the cold became unbearable, then climbed back inside. Rachel should have gone home. They were trying to be careful around Sophia, trying not to move too fast, but somehow she ended up staying, falling asleep on the couch, while Michael sat in the chair watching her and wondering how his life had become something out of a movie. The next morning brought chaos. Someone, certainly from Robert Anderson's camp, had leaked the story to the press. Heiress throws away fortune for janitor love story was the kindest headline. The others were worse, painting Michael as a gold digger who had seduced Rachel for her money. Don't read them, Rachel said, but it was too late. Sophia had already seen the story on Mrs. Chen's tablet. They're saying mean things about you, Daddy. People say mean things sometimes, Mija. What matters is that we know the truth. But it was harder when reporters showed up at the building, when Michael's phone rang with requests for comment, when Sophia's school called to say there were photographers at the gate. I'll fix this, Rachel said, her jaw set with determination. How? By telling the truth. She gave one interview to a reporter she trusted, telling the real story. How Michael had saved her life expecting nothing in return. How he'd tried to refuse every reward. How her decision to leave the company was hers alone and had been years in the making. My father wants to paint Michael as someone who corrupted me, she said, looking directly into the camera. The truth is, he saved me. Not just that night at Grand Central, but every day since. He reminded me that integrity matters more than income, that courage matters more than comfort, that love matters more than anything. The interview went viral, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Other people started sharing their stories. Women who'd been saved by strangers, men who'd risked everything for love, families who'd chosen happiness over wealth. Michael and Rachel became symbols of something larger, a reminder that sometimes the best things in life really couldn't be bought. Roger's brother-in-law hired Michael on the spot, impressed not by the media attention, but by Roger's recommendation and Michael's practical knowledge. The new job was in Brooklyn, managing a portfolio of residential buildings. Less prestigious than Anderson Global, but Michael found he preferred it. These were homes, not corporate offices. The work felt more meaningful. Rachel threw herself into building her nonprofit, working 18-hour days, calling in favors from old connections, applying for grants with single-minded determination. She turned their kitchen table into her office, laptop, and papers spreading across the surface until Sophia had to do homework on her bed. You need a real office, Michael said one evening, watching her squint at spreadsheets. This is fine for now. Rent money can go to programs instead. But it wasn't fine. Rachel was used to space, to resources, to assistance. Watching her adapt to their cramped life was both inspiring and heartbreaking. We could get a bigger place, Michael suggested. With my new salary. No, I'm not displacing you and Sophia. This is your home. Our home, Sophia corrected, looking up from her book. Rachel lives here now, too. It was true in practice, if not officially. Rachel kept clothes in a corner of the closet, had her own coffee mug, knew which floorboards creaked and how to jiggle the toilet handle when it stuck. February arrived with a blizzard that shut down the city. The three of them spent the snow day playing board games, making soup from whatever was in the cabinets, and working on a 1,000-piece puzzle of Van Gogh's Sunflowers that Rachel had bought. This is perfect, Sophia said, fitting another piece into place. You're easily pleased, Rachel laughed. No, really, we're all here. We're warm. We have food. We have each other. What else do we need? Rachel and Michael exchanged glances over Sophia's head. The child had more wisdom than both adults combined. That night, after Sophia was asleep, they stood at the window watching the snowfall, transforming Queens into something magical. Your father called me today, Rachel said quietly. He wants to meet. Michael tensed. And? I said no. Not until he can accept you, accept us. He has to understand that you're not negotiable. Rachel, he's your father, and you're my family now, you and Sophia. If he can't accept that, then he's choosing his pride over his daughter. The next week brought unexpected news. Maria's parents, who had cut contact when she married Michael, reached out. They'd seen the news stories, recognized Sophia in the pictures. We were wrong, Maria's mother said when they met at a neutral location, a diner in Astoria. We let pride keep us from our daughter, and now she's gone. We don't want to make the same mistake with our granddaughter. It was awkward at first. They were traditional, formal, uncomfortable with the attention the family had received. But when Sophia started speaking Spanish with them, Michael had made sure she learned. Their faces softened. She looks like Maria, her grandfather said, tears in his eyes. She has her spirit, too, Michael replied. They started slowly. Sunday dinners once a month, then twice. Rachel charmed them with her attempts at Spanish and her genuine interest in their stories. They were confused by her presence at first,
this wealthy white woman who had given up everything for Michael, but Sophia explained it simply. She loves us and we love her. By March, Rachel's nonprofit had its first major donor, a tech billionaire who had grown up poor and loved the idea of giving kids chances he'd never had. The donation was enough to rent space, hire staff, and launch the first programs. "We did it," Rachel said, crying as she showed Michael the check. "We actually did it." "You did it," he corrected. "This is all you." "No, this is us." "None of this happens without you and Sophia. You gave me the courage to try." They found space in Long Island City, an old warehouse that could be converted into studios and classrooms. Michael spent his evenings and weekends helping with the renovation, his construction knowledge from years of maintenance work proving invaluable. Sophia appointed herself chief youth consultant in practice, as well as title, testing supplies, giving feedback on classroom layouts, and recruiting kids from her school for the first sessions. "We need a name," she declared at dinner one night. "The Anderson Foundation sounds like a bank." "What do you suggest?" Rachel asked. Sophia thought carefully. "Second chances." "That's not really an art name, Mija," Michael said. "But that's what art is, right? A second chance to see things differently, a second chance to express yourself, a second chance to become who you're meant to be." Rachel grabbed a napkin and started sketching a logo. Second Chances Art Studio, for kids who deserve another way to see the world. "It's perfect," Michael said. Robert Anderson heard about the name and was predictably furious. Rachel had rejected his legacy entirely, chosen a name that had nothing to do with him, but others loved it. The story of the name, inspired by an 8-year-old who understood that everyone deserved another opportunity, became part of the nonprofit's mythology. Opening day was April 1st, which Sophia found hilarious. April Fool's Day. "It's perfect because everyone thought we were fools for trying this." 50 kids showed up for the first session, ranging from 5 to 18, all from families who could never afford traditional art education. Rachel had recruited real working artists as teachers, people who understood both the joy and struggle of creative life. Michael watched from the back as Rachel welcomed everyone, as Sophia helped younger kids find supplies, as something they dreamed into existence became real. "You did good," a voice said beside him. He turned to find Robert Anderson standing there, looking older and somehow smaller than Michael remembered. "Mr. Anderson, my daughter looks happy." "She is happy." "And you? Still think love is worth more than money?" "Every day, sir." They stood in silence, watching Rachel help a small boy hold a paintbrush correctly, her face glowing with purpose. "I was wrong," Robert said quietly, the words clearly costing him. "Not about you. I still think you're all wrong for her, but about her. She was dying in my world, wasn't she? She was surviving. Now she's living. Because of you. Because of herself. I just reminded her she had choices." Robert turned to leave, then paused. "Take care of them. Both of them. Always." He left without speaking to Rachel, but the next day a massive anonymous donation appeared in Second Chance's account. Rachel knew immediately who it was from. "He's trying," she told Michael. "In his own way, he's trying. Do you want to reconcile? Maybe. Someday, but not at the cost of us. Never at the cost of us." Spring bloomed across New York, and with it their makeshift family solidified into something permanent. Rachel officially moved in, bringing only clothes and art supplies, leaving her expensive furniture and most of her possessions behind. "I don't need things," she said. "I need this." They were cramped, stepping on each other constantly, but happy. Sophia had never had a mother figure since Maria died, and while she was careful never to call Rachel Mom, the relationship was clearly heading that direction. One evening in May, as they walked through Central Park after one of Sophia's art shows at Second Chances, Sophia ran ahead to chase pigeons, leaving Michael and Rachel alone. "Marry me," Michael said suddenly. Rachel stopped walking. "What?" "Marry me. I know we don't have much. I know it's only been 5 months. I know your father will probably have a stroke, but marry me. You're proposing in the middle of Central Park with no ring while your daughter chases pigeons. I'm proposing while we're happy and together and building something beautiful. The ring can come later. The fancy proposal can come later. But the promise, the commitment, I want that now. Rachel kissed him, right there with tourists watching and Sophia cheering in the distance. Yes! Of course. Yes. Really? Michael Torres, I gave up $5 million for you. You think I'd say no to a proposal? When you put it like that? Sophia ran back, breathless and beaming. Did you ask her? Did she say yes? How did you… Daddy, you've been carrying Grandma's ring in your pocket for 3 weeks. You're not that subtle. Maria's mother had given him the ring at their last Sunday dinner, a simple band with a small diamond that had been in the family for generations. She said I should have given it to Maria, she'd told Michael. But I was too proud. Don't make my mistake. Give it to the woman you love. Michael pulled out the ring now, knelt properly in front of God in Central Park and his daughter. Rachel Anderson, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Sophia's stepmother and my partner in all things? Yes, Rachel said again, tears streaming. Yes to all of it. The ring was too big. Maria's mother had larger hands, but Rachel wore it anyway, holding her hand up to catch the late afternoon light. We're going to be a real family now, Sophia said, hugging them both. We already are a real family, mija. I know, but now everyone else will know too. They were married 6 weeks later in the community garden where Maria had loved to take Sophia. It was small, just Roger and his wife, Mrs. Chen, Rachel's best friend from college, Maria's parents, and a handful of kids from Second Chances. Robert Anderson didn't come, but he sent a gift, the deed to a brownstone in Brooklyn, for my daughter and her family. Rachel wanted to refuse it, but Michael stopped her. It's his way of accepting us. Let him. The brownstone needed work, years of it, but it had 4 bedrooms, a backyard where Sophia could paint, and enough space that they could finally breathe. Our home, Rachel said, standing in the empty living room the day they got the keys. Our home, Michael agreed. Sophia was already upstairs, claiming her room, her voice echoing through the empty house as she planned where everything would go. That night, in their new home with boxes everywhere and only a mattress on the floor, the 3 of them ate Chinese takeout and played cards by candlelight because they hadn't figured out the electricity yet. This is the best day, Sophia declared, winning another hand of Go Fish. Better than Christmas? Rachel asked. Better than anything. We're home. Really home. Michael looked at his wife, and his daughter, sitting in their dilapidated brownstone with no furniture and no clear plan for fixing it up, and thought about trajectories again. 6 months ago, he'd been a janitor struggling to make ends meet. Now he was married to the love of his life, raising his daughter in a house they owned, building something meaningful together. All because he'd stepped forward when everyone else stepped back. All because he'd chosen courage over safety. All because sometimes the most dangerous moments lead to the most beautiful destinations. What are you thinking about? Rachel asked, catching his distant expression. Just how lucky we are. Lucky. She looked around at the water-stained walls and warped floorboards. You have a strange definition of lucky. I have you. Sophia has you. We have each other, and this place, and second chances, and a whole future to build together. That's not luck. That's a miracle. Rachel reached across the takeout containers to squeeze his hand. You saved my life that night at Grand Central. You saved mine right back. We saved each other, Sophia said matter-of-factly. That's what family does. Outside, Brooklyn settled into evening, the sounds of the city filtering through their walls. Somewhere out there, Robert Anderson was probably in his pristine office, alone with his empire. The attacker from Grand Central was serving his time, maybe finding his own second chance. Danny was rebuilding his life after his arrest, hopefully learning that destruction never leads to construction. But here, in their barely habitable brownstone, with lo mein noodles and flickering candles and Sophia's laughter filling the empty rooms, Michael Torres had everything he'd never known he wanted. He had Rachel, brilliant and brave, choosing love over luxury every single day. He had Sophia, growing into an artist and a force of nature. He had purpose and meaning and a future that stretched out like one of Sophia's paintings, full of color and possibility. I love you both, he said suddenly, the words bursting out of him. We love you too, Daddy, Sophia said,
as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Forever?" he asked, an echo of the bedtime ritual from when she was younger. "Forever and always," Sophia confirmed. "And then some," Rachel added, starting their own tradition. They stayed up too late, planning renovations they couldn't afford, dreaming dreams that seemed impossibly large, building their life word by word and hope by hope. Tomorrow would bring challenges. The brownstone needed everything: new plumbing, electrical work, a roof that didn't leak. Second chances needed funding and volunteers and space to grow. Robert Anderson would continue his Cold War, testing their resolve. The world would watch and judge and have opinions about their unlikely family. But tonight they were together. Tonight they were home. Tonight they were proof that sometimes risking everything leads to having everything. The candle flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls, and Michael thought he saw Maria there for just a moment, smiling, approving, blessing this new chapter with her absence that somehow felt like presence. "Thank you," he whispered to the shadow, to the memory, to the woman who had first taught him he was worth saving. "What?" Rachel asked. "Nothing. Everything. Just grateful." She kissed him, tasting like soy sauce and happiness. "Me too." Sophia had fallen asleep against Michael's shoulder, her breathing deep and peaceful. They carried her up to her new room, laying her on the air mattress they'd brought, tucking her in with promises of painting the walls whatever color she wanted. "Purple," she murmured, mostly asleep. "With gold stars. Like dreams." Standing in the doorway, watching their daughter now, Rachel slipped her hand into Michael's. "We did it," she whispered. "We really did it." "We're just getting started," he whispered back. And in the broken-down brownstone in Brooklyn, with everything to do and everything to prove, with love as their foundation and hope as their blueprint, they were right. They were just getting started. The best parts, the struggles and triumphs, the failures and victories, the ordinary moments that would become extraordinary memories, were all still ahead. But they would face them together, this unlikely family forged from crisis and choice, from courage and commitment, from a moment in Grand Central Station when a janitor decided that someone else's life was worth risking his own. The brownstone became their project, their metaphor, their salvation. Every weekend that summer, they worked on it together, Michael teaching Rachel how to strip wallpaper and patch drywall, Rachel teaching Sophia about color theory as they chose paint, Sophia teaching them both that renovation was more fun with music blasting and dance breaks every hour. "We should document this," Sophia said one Saturday in July, her face streaked with primer. "Before and after photos for every room." "Why?" Michael asked, wrestling with a stubborn baseboard. "Because someday we'll forget how hard this was. We'll forget that we built this ourselves, that every wall we painted was a choice to stay, to commit, to believe in us." Rachel stopped mid-brushstroke, looking at Sophia with wonder. "When did you become so wise?" "Thursdays," Sophia replied seriously, then giggled. "I've been wise on Thursdays since I was 6. They were laughing when the doorbell rang, which was strange because the doorbell didn't work. Michael went to investigate and found Robert Anderson standing on their stoop, looking uncomfortable in khakis and a polo shirt instead of his usual suit. "I thought I might help," he said stiffly, holding a toolbox that looked brand new. Rachel appeared behind Michael, paint in her hair, shock on her face. "Dad?" "Your mother loved renovation projects," Robert said, not quite meeting her eyes. "I never had time for them when she was alive." Another regret to add to the pile. There was a moment of suspended possibility, then Sophia burst through, covered in paint like war paint. "Mr. Rachel's dad! Do you know how to fix toilets? Ours makes a weird singing noise. Robert Anderson, CEO of a billion-dollar company, looked down at the 8-year-old force of nature and did something Michael had never seen him do. He smiled genuinely. "I can learn," he said. That's how they spent the afternoon, Robert Anderson on his back under their bathroom sink, while Sophia handed him tools and chattered about art and school and her grandmother's secret mole recipe. Rachel watched from the doorway, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "He's trying," Michael said quietly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I know, it's just, this is what I wanted when I was Sophia's age. A father who showed up,
Who got dirty? Who chose family over another conference call? Maybe that's what second chances really means, Michael suggested. Not just for the kids in the program, but for all of us. Robert stayed for dinner, Chinese takeout eaten on the floor because they still didn't have a dining table. He was awkward, formal, clearly out of his element, but he was there. When Sophia showed him her art portfolio, he studied each piece with the same intensity he brought to quarterly reports. "You have your grandmother's eye," he told her. "She was an artist before she married me." "Why did she stop?" Sophia asked with her characteristic directness. "Because I was young and stupid and thought art was frivolous. Because she loved me enough to give up something essential to who she was. Because I didn't understand until too late that when someone gives up their dreams for you, you both lose." The room was quiet except for the distant sound of Brooklyn traffic. Then Sophia stood and hugged Robert, this man she'd just met who was somehow family now. "It's okay," she told him solemnly. "Rachel is doing art now. It's like your wife is still painting, just through Rachel's hands, and now mine too. We're all connected." Robert Anderson, who had negotiated with titans of industry without flinching, broke down crying in an 8-year-old's embrace. After that day, Robert became a regular presence, showing up on Sundays with bagels in his toolbox, working alongside them in comfortable silence or listening to Sophia's elaborate stories. He and Michael developed a careful respect, bonding over their shared love for the two most important women in their lives. "I misjudged you," Robert said one afternoon in August, helping Michael install kitchen cabinets. "You were protecting your daughter." "I would have done the same." "No, you would have trusted her judgment. You would have seen her happiness and valued that above your own plans." He paused, adjusting the level. "You're a better father than I ever was." "Different kinds of fathers," Michael said diplomatically. "You built an empire for her." "I'm just trying to build a home." "The home matters more," Robert said quietly. "I just learned that too late." Second Chances was thriving beyond anyone's expectations. The summer program had a waiting list, kids from all 5 boroughs applying for spots. Rachel had convinced several galleries to display student work, with any sales going directly to the young artists. The first exhibition opened in September, and Sophia sold her first painting, a portrait of their family working on the brownstone, for $500. "I'm rich!" she shouted, then immediately asked, "How much can I donate back to Second Chances?" That night, as they celebrated Sophia's first sale with ice cream sundaes in their finally functional kitchen, Rachel got a call that changed everything. "Yes, I understand. Of course we're interested. Tomorrow? Yes, we can make that work." She hung up, face pale with excitement. That was the MacArthur Foundation. They want to give Second Chances a genius grant, $500,000 over 5 years. Michael dropped his spoon. Sophia squealed. Even Robert, who had joined them for dessert, looked impressed. "You did it," Michael said, pulling Rachel into his arms. "You really did it." "We did it," she corrected. "None of this happens without all of us." The grant changed everything. They could hire full-time teachers, expand to multiple locations, offer scholarships for advanced training. But it also meant Rachel would be busier than ever, traveling for conferences, meeting with donors, becoming the face of a movement. "I don't want to be away from you guys," she said that night, anxiety creeping into her voice. "We'll manage," Michael assured her. "Sophia and I held down the fort before you came along. But I don't want you to have to. I don't want to become my father, choosing work over family." "You won't," Sophia said from the doorway, supposed to be asleep but drawn by the conversation. "Because you know what matters. And because we won't let you forget." October brought unexpected challenges. Danny Kowalski, out on parole, showed up at Second Chances during a Saturday session. Michael tensed, ready to call security, but Danny raised his hands in surrender. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. "I'm here to apologize. And maybe to ask for a second chance of my own." He looked different, cleaner, clearer-eyed, like prison had burned something out of him and left space for something better. "I learned to draw inside," he said quietly. "It was that or go crazy. The art teacher said I had talent, said maybe I could make something of myself if I had the right opportunities." Rachel stepped forward before Michael could respond. "Everyone deserves a second chance. That's why we exist." I vandalized your father's building. I threatened Michael. And you served your time. The question now is what you do next. Danny started coming to adult evening sessions, keeping his head down, working with quiet intensity. His art was angry at first, all sharp edges and dark colors, but gradually something softer emerged. By December, he was helping teach younger kids, his own rough past making him uniquely qualified to reach the ones who trusted no one. You gave him a chance when I wouldn't have, Michael told Rachel one night, watching Danny help a troubled teenager with perspective drawing. You gave me a chance when my father wouldn't have, she replied. Grace has to start somewhere. Christmas Eve arrived exactly 1 year after the night that started everything. They decided to mark it with a celebration at Second Chances, inviting all the families, the teachers, the donors who had believed in their vision. Michael stood in the main studio, watching the controlled chaos of children creating, parents chatting, his wife, his brilliant, brave wife, moving through the crowd like she was born to this. Sophia was demonstrating watercolor techniques to a group of younger kids, patient and encouraging. Quite a year, a voice said beside him. Robert Anderson, holding a cup of punch and looking more relaxed than Michael had ever seen him. Sometimes I can't believe it's real, Michael admitted. It's real because you made it real. All of you. Robert paused. I've been thinking about that night. The attack. If you hadn't saved Rachel, someone else would have. No, they wouldn't have. Everyone else stood back, remember? Only you stepped forward. He turned to Michael. I spent so long focused on what you couldn't give my daughter, wealth, status, the life I'd planned for her. I never considered what you could give her that I couldn't. Which is the courage to be herself, the permission to choose love over logic, the example of someone who does the right thing even when it costs everything. Before Michael could respond, Sophia ran up, grabbing both their hands. Come on! Rachel's about to make the announcement. They let her pull them to where Rachel stood on a makeshift stage, glowing with excitement. A year ago tonight, my life was saved by someone who expected nothing in return, she began, finding Michael's eyes in the crowd. That act of selfless courage started a chain of events that led us all here. To this place where art and hope intersect, where second chances aren't just possible but promised. She continued, announcing the expansion plans, the new partnerships, the scholarship fund established in Sofia Torres's name for young artists showing exceptional promise. But Michael barely heard the details, too focused on watching his wife shine, his daughter beam, his father-in-law wipe away tears he'd deny later. After the celebration, as they cleaned up, Sophia found a package hidden behind one of the easels. It was addressed to Michael, no return address, postmarked from Connecticut. Inside was a canvas, a painting of Grand Central Station on a winter night, crowds frozen in a moment of crisis, but with one figure moving forward, reaching out. It was beautiful and haunting and somehow hopeful. The note attached was simple. You saved more than one life that night. Thank you for showing me that courage is possible. A stranger who stopped being strange. Michael never found out who sent it, though he had his suspicions. The painting now hangs in their living room, a daily reminder that single moments of bravery ripple outward in ways we never see. Spring came again, and with it, news that would reshape their family once more. Rachel was pregnant. They found out on a Tuesday, sitting in a doctor's office that smelled like disinfectant and possibility. You're going to be a big sister, Rachel told Sophia that evening. Sophia's eyes went wide, then filled with tears. Really? A real brother or sister? Real as it gets, mija, Michael said, his own throat tight with emotion. What if I'm not good at it? What if the baby doesn't like me? Rachel pulled her close. You're already the best big sister in the world. This baby is so lucky to have you. Can we name it after Mama if it's a girl? Sophia asked quietly. Michael and Rachel exchanged glances. We could use Maria as a middle name, Rachel suggested. Would that be okay? Perfect, Sophia said. That way Mama is still part of our family. Robert Anderson's reaction to the pregnancy was unexpected. He showed up the next day with an armload of parenting books, a crib that cost more than Michael's first car, and a vulnerability Michael had never seen before. I miss so much with Rachel, he said. Her first steps, her school plays, her art shows. Always working, always building something I thought mattered more. Don't make my mistakes, Michael. I won't. You say that now, but success is seductive. The nonprofit is growing, your job is demanding. There will always be reasons to miss things. He paused. I've been thinking about stepping back from the company. Maybe spending more time at Second Chances, if Rachel will have me. Dad, Rachel said from the doorway, having heard everything. You built Anderson Global from nothing. It's your life. No, he said firmly. You're my life. You and this family you've created, this second chance I don't deserve. The company will survive without me. I'm not sure I'll survive without you. By summer, Robert had transitioned to chairman emeritus, handing daily operations to his CFO. He spent his newfound time at Second Chances, teaching business skills to older students, using his connections to secure internships and scholarships. He was awkward with the kids at first, too formal, but Sophia appointed herself his translator. Mr. Robert means he likes your painting, she would interpret. He just doesn't know how to say it without sounding like a business email. The baby was due in November. They found out it was a boy in July, and Sophia immediately began painting murals on the nursery walls, a jungle scene with friendly animals, all watching over the crib with protective eyes. So he's never alone, she explained. Even when we're not in the room, the animals will watch him. Michael found Rachel crying over the murals one evening, pregnancy hormones and emotions overwhelming her. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect. Too perfect. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for this happiness to be taken away. Hey, Michael said, pulling her close. We've already faced the worst. Attacks, family rejection, public humiliation, Danny's breakdown. We survived all of it. Whatever comes next, we can handle it. You promise? I promise we'll handle it together. That's all anyone can promise. September brought unexpected news. The man who had attacked Rachel at Grand Central had been released early for good behavior. He'd written a letter to Rachel through his parole officer, asking if he could meet with her, apologize properly. Absolutely not, Michael said immediately. I want to do it, Rachel said. I need to do it. Rachel, he's someone's father, Michael. Someone's son. He was desperate and did something terrible, but doesn't he deserve a second chance too? The meeting was arranged at a neutral location, a community center in the Bronx. Michael insisted on coming, ready to protect Rachel again if necessary. But the man who walked in looked nothing like the wild-eyed attacker from that night. He was clean, sober, wearing a janitor's uniform from his new job. I don't expect forgiveness, he said, not quite meeting Rachel's eyes. I just needed to say I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. But not unredeemable, Rachel said. You were sick. Desperate. You've gotten help, rehab, therapy, medication for the stuff I didn't even know I had. Your husband. He looked at Michael. He was right that night. There was a choice, and I nearly made the wrong one. I think about that every day. What do you do now? Sophia asked. She'd insisted on coming, saying this was family business and she was family. I clean offices at night, honest work. I'm saving money to pay restitution, to maybe see my own kids again someday. Sophia stood and walked over to him, this man who had terrorized her father and Rachel, and handed him a flyer for second chances. We have adult classes, she said simply. Art helps with the big feelings. The man started crying. Rachel started crying. Michael started crying. Even Robert, who had also insisted on attending, had to turn away to compose himself. The man never came to second chances. It would have been too much, too complicated. But they heard later that he'd enrolled in art therapy at a community center near his halfway house, that he was rebuilding slowly, carefully, one day at a time. You have the biggest heart, Michael told Sophia that night, just like your mother. Both my mothers, Sophia corrected. Rachel has a big heart too. October was a whirlwind of preparation for the baby, expansion at Second Chances, and continuing renovation on the brownstone. They'd managed to restore most of it, but the basement remained untouched, full of possibilities. Art studio, Sophia suggested. Man cave, Michael countered. Wine cellar, Robert offered. Playroom, Rachel said, hand on her growing belly. For this little one and maybe others? Others?
Michael's eyebrows shot up. I don't want him to be alone. Sophia had us, but she needed other kids too. I want our son to have siblings. I want that too, Sophia said. At least 2 more, maybe 3. Let's get through this one first, Michael laughed. But privately, he loved the idea of filling their brownstone with children, with art and laughter and chaos. They had the space now, the stability, the love to spare. November arrived with false labor, real labor, and finally, at 3:47 a.m. on November 15th, Thomas Michael Torres Anderson was born, screaming and perfect and immediately adored by everyone in the room. He looks like you, Rachel told Michael, exhausted but radiant. Poor kid, Michael joked, but he was crying too hard to sell it. Sophia held her brother for the first time with the careful reverence usually reserved for ancient artifacts. Hi, Tommy, she whispered. I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you everything, how to draw, how to read, how to be brave like Daddy, and kind like Rachel, and smart like Grandpa Robert. What about Maria? Rachel asked gently. What would she teach him? Sophia thought carefully. She'd teach him to find beauty everywhere, even in sad places. And she'd teach him that love doesn't end just because someone goes away. It just changes shape. The nurse had to leave the room because she was crying too hard to continue her work. They brought Tommy home to a brownstone full of people. Mrs. Chen from the old building, Roger and his wife, Rachel's college friends, teachers from Second Chances, even Danny Kowalski, now one of their most dedicated volunteers. Maria's parents were there too, having become regular fixtures in their lives, teaching Sophia traditional recipes and Spanish lullabies that she now sang to Tommy. This is what family really means, Robert said, looking around the crowded living room. Not blood or law or tradition, but choice. All these people choosing to be here, to be part of something bigger than themselves. That night, after everyone had gone and Tommy was sleeping in his jungle-guarded nursery, the 4 of them, 5, counting the baby, sat in their renovated living room, looking at how far they'd come. The walls held their story now. The painting from the anonymous stranger, Sophia's artwork from every stage of her development, photos of Second Chance's kids at their exhibitions, Michael and Rachel's wedding portrait, the ultrasound that announced Tommy's existence. But it was the newest addition that made Michael's throat tight every time. A photo from that afternoon, their whole extended, unconventional family crowded into the frame, all looking at Tommy with wonder and love. What are you thinking? Rachel asked, catching his contemplative mood. About trajectories. About how one moment can change everything. The attack? That was the catalyst, but not the moment. The moment was when I decided to step forward. Everything else followed from that choice. What if you hadn't? Sophia asked. What if you'd walked away? Michael considered this, the alternate timeline where he chose safety over courage. Then I would have taught you the wrong lesson about what matters. And we wouldn't have all this. All this mess, you mean? Rachel laughed, gesturing at the chaos of baby supplies and art projects and renovation materials that had taken over their home. All this beautiful, perfect mess, Michael corrected. Tommy stirred in his bassinet, making the small sounds that preceded crying. Sophia jumped up immediately. I'll get him. He probably needs to know we're still here. They watched her carefully lift her brother, cooing reassurances. We're all here, Tommy. You're safe. You're loved. You're home. Christmas came again. They're second in the brownstone, but they're first as a complete family. The tree was enormous this year, Robert having insisted on getting one that touched the ceiling. Tommy stared at the lights with wide-eyed baby wonder while Sophia documented everything with the camera Rachel had given her for her birthday. For the before and after book, she explained, so Tommy knows how we became us. They held another celebration at Second Chances, bigger this year, with students performing music and reading poetry alongside the art exhibition. The mayor came, praised their work, promised city funding that Rachel would fight to actually receive. But the highlight was Sophia's speech, delivered with the confidence of someone who had found their voice. A year ago, my dad saved someone's life, she began. But really, we all saved each other. That's what Second Chances means. Not just getting another try, but helping other people get theirs too. Every painting here, every poem,
every song, they're all proof that beautiful things can come from hard places. The applause was thunderous. Michael caught Rachel wiping tears, Robert openly sobbing, and Tommy sleeping through it all with the peace of someone who had never known anything but love. Later, as they cleaned up, Michael found himself in the same spot as the year before, looking at the same scene but seeing how much had changed. The studio was bigger now, the program established, the dream made manifest. But more than that, his family was complete in ways he'd never imagined possible. Rachel appeared beside him, Tommy in a carrier against her chest. "Penny for your thoughts?" "Just thinking about how wrong your father was." "About?" "He said you'd get tired of slumming it with us, that the novelty would wear off." Rachel laughed. "Shows what he knew." "Though technically, we're not slumming anymore. We own a brownstone in Brooklyn. We're practically gentrifiers." "Don't let Sophia hear you say that. She's very concerned about staying authentic." "Our daughter is 8 going on 40. 9 next month," Sophia corrected, appearing with her characteristic ability to be everywhere at once. "And I've decided what I want for my birthday." "What's that, mija?" "For all of us to go to Grand Central. To stand where it all started. To say thank you to the universe or God or whoever made that night happen." Michael and Rachel exchanged glances. They'd avoided Grand Central since that night. The trauma too fresh, the memories too intense. But maybe Sophia was right. Maybe it was time to reclaim that space, to transform it from a site of violence to a place of gratitude. "Okay," Michael said. "We'll go." So on Sophia's 9th birthday, they stood in Grand Central Station at the exact spot where everything had changed. The crowds moved around them, unaware of the significance of this particular patch of marble floor. Tommy dozed in his carrier, oblivious to the story he was part of. "This is where you were brave, Daddy," Sophia said solemnly. "This is where our real story started." "I think our story started before that," Michael said, thinking of Maria, of the struggles that had shaped him, of all the moments that had led him to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. "But this is where it changed direction," Rachel said. "This is where we all started moving toward each other." They stood there for a moment, this unlikely family, letting the bustling station wash over them. Then Sophia pulled out a piece of chalk, because of course she had chalk, and knelt down. "What are you doing?" Michael asked. "Leaving a message for the next person who needs to be brave." She wrote in her careful handwriting, "Sometimes the scariest choice is the right choice. Be brave." S. A security guard started toward them, but an older woman stopped him, whispered something. The guard looked at Michael, recognition flickering across his face, and nodded. The chalk message would stay, at least for a little while. As they left the station, Tommy woke and began to fuss. Rachel bounced him gently while Sophia sang the Spanish lullaby Maria's mother had taught her. Michael watched his family, this beautiful, impossible family, and felt the weight of how lucky he was. "No regrets?" Rachel asked, catching his expression. "Not one," he said. "Well, maybe one." "What?" "I wish Maria could see this, could see who Sophia's becoming, could meet you and Tommy, could know that her love didn't die with her." Rachel stopped walking, turned to face him fully. "She does know, Michael. She knows because Sophia carries her forward every day, because you've honored her memory by living fully, not just surviving, because our son will grow up knowing about the grandmother who loved so fiercely that it still shapes our lives years after she's gone." "You really believe that?" "I believe that love is the only thing that really lasts. Everything else, money, status, power, it's all temporary. But love? Love changes things at the molecular level. It rewrites DNA. It creates ripples that never stop spreading." That night, after the birthday cake and presents, after Sophia had shown Tommy all her art supplies and explained that he'd have his own when he was older, after Robert had gone home, and Maria's parents had left with promises to babysit soon, Michael and Rachel stood in their kitchen, finally alone. "We did it," Rachel said. "We really, actually did it." "Did what?" "Created something beautiful from something terrible. Built a family from broken pieces. Proved that love actually does conquer all, as cheesy as that sounds." "It doesn't sound cheesy. It sounds true."
They could hear Sophia upstairs reading to Tommy from her favorite book, her voice carrying through the old house's thin walls. Outside, Brooklyn was settling into sleep, another day ending in their corner of the vast city. "I love you," Michael said, the words still feeling like a miracle even after all this time. "I love you too. Forever? Forever and always." "And then some," they said together, their new tradition now set in stone. The future stretched before them, full of unknowns. Tommy would grow, maybe siblings would follow. Second chances would expand or struggle or transform into something none of them could imagine. Sophia would become an artist or a teacher or something entirely unexpected. Robert would continue his journey toward redemption. The brownstone would shelter their dreams and weather their storms. But tonight, in their kitchen that smelled like birthday cake and possibility, none of that mattered. What mattered was that they were together, that they had chosen each other, that they had been brave when it counted. The painting in the living room, that anonymous gift from someone whose life had been touched by their story, caught the light from the street lamp outside, seeming to glow with its own inner fire. It showed a moment of crisis, of choice, of courage. But what it really showed was the instant when everything changed, when the trajectory of multiple lives shifted toward something better. Michael Torres, former janitor, unlikely hero, husband, and father, looked at his reflection in the kitchen window and saw not who he had been, but who he had become. Someone who stepped forward. Someone who chose love over safety, courage over comfort, family over fear. And in that reflection, for just a moment, he could swear he saw Maria smiling back, proud of the man he'd become, the family they'd built, the love that had not only survived but flourished in her absence. "Thank you," he whispered to the reflection, to the memory, to the love that had started it all. Upstairs, Sophia's voice continued, reading about dragons and princes and happily ever after. But their story was better than any fairy tale because it was real, because it was theirs, because it was still being written. And the best chapters, Michael knew with absolute certainty, were yet to come.